2022 full commission meeting. I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Doug Wheely to kick us off.
There we go. Good morning. This is Commissioner Doug Wheely, Vice Chair of the Commission, and today acting as the Chair with profuse apologies for being late. I hate being late. I'm sorry for that. And I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with roll call. Yes.
Yes, starting with roll call. Well, I'll start with housekeeping first, just to let everyone know our new Senate bill. So to start out with, this full commission meeting will be on Zoom via teleconference and held at the California Commission on Disability Access headquarters, located at 400 R Street, Suite 312, Sacramento, California, 95811. Per Senate Bill 189, the Bagley-Keene teleconferencing restrictions have been suspended through July 1st of 2023. Therefore, committee members are not required to list their remote locations. Members of the public may participate by Zoom or teleconference from any location. There was one amendment made to the agenda. The first agenda was distributed on Friday, July 15th, 2022, and the amended agenda was distributed on Friday, July 22nd, 2022. The most recent agenda can be found on the CCDA website. This meeting is being captioned and recorded. To assist in this effort, please state your first and last name each time you speak and speak loud and clear. The live captioning link has been included in the chat for your use. Public participants can use the raise hand function to alert the committee of when they would like to speak, and we will also give an opportunity for public members who have called into the meeting and which they can unmute themselves. If you are attending this meeting via teleconference, please press *6 on your keypad to unmute or mute yourself. If you would like to alert CCDA, press *9 to telephonically raise your hand and the staff will call on you. Please remember to mute yourself if you are not speaking to reduce noise. If you are having technical issues throughout the meeting and need assistance, please use the chat function to alert the CCDA staff or email at ccda@dgs.ca.gov. And I will pass it over to our operations manager, Phil McFall, so he can discuss more on our Senate Bill 189.
Thank you, Presley. Again, as Presley said, I want to go over Senate Bill 189 just a little bit more detail, because this is something that's fairly new. Pursuant to Senate Bill 189, all requirements requiring in-person meeting attendance of commission members is suspended through July 1st, 2023. Additionally, teleconference restrictions are waived and commission members are not required to list their meeting locations. The suspended Bagley-Keene articles are as follows. Each teleconference location from which a member will be participating in a meeting or proceeding be identified in the notice and agenda of the public meeting or proceeding. Each teleconference location be accessible to the public. Members of the public may address the state body at each teleconference conference location. Posted agendas are at all teleconference locations. At least one member of the state body must be physically present at the location specified in the notice of the meeting. These Bagley-Keene, again, I just want to reiterate that these are suspended through July 1st of 2023. So we will be operating under those guidelines for the next almost year. Thank you. And for that, I want to now pass it back over to Commissioner Doug Wheely for roll call. Sorry.
Lee Presley, you're going to do the roll call, yes?
Yes, Commissioner Wheely. I will start roll call right now. First, we have our chair, Commissioner Christopher Downey. I know that he is not going to be able to attend today. Next, I have Commissioner Guy Lemus.
Present.
Awesome. And then Commissioner Doug Wheely.
Present.
Commissioner Drake Dillard.
Present.
Commissioner Sue L. Hessen, Commissioner Dr. L. Hessen, I'll come back to her because I know she's in the chat or in the Zoom right now, so I'll circle back. Commissioner Brian Holloway. Awesome. Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson,
Present.
Commissioner Ashley Leon Vasquez,
Present.
Commissioner Scott Littlebridge. I know that he will not be able to attend today. Commissioner Michael Paravagna,
Present.
Commissioner Hector Ramirez.
Buenos dias.
Awesome. And then I'll go back, Commissioner Dr. Sue L. Hessen. Well, it's okay. I know she's here somewhere. So either way, we have reached quorum. So we will have quorum for today and be able to vote on items. I will also identify any members of the Senate here today.
This is Dr. Sue. I'm here. I'm sorry I stepped out for a minute.
Perfect. We found you. I knew it. Okay, awesome. And then is there any members of the Senate or Assembly here today?
Akash Vashi on behalf of Senator Hurtado.
Awesome.
And Preston Romero on behalf of Assemblywoman Janet Nguyen.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And now I will pass it back to you, Commissioner Wheelie, to identify if there's any members of the public that would like to identify themselves.
Thank you very much. And yes, that is the next question. Are there members of the public in this meeting who would like to identify themselves? This would be the time to do that.
Darlene Ornelas, San Diego, California.
Thank you.
William Reeling, Accessible San Francisco. I don't have a raised hand function on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others?
David Peters, Irvine, California.
Great.
These
Are there
cans
any
are under
others?
more.
Okay, I think we have all of the members of the public having introduced themselves. We will, with that, then move on to agenda item 2. No, we had the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. McFall.
Okay, so if you can, please stand. If you're able to, please stand and face our flag. I pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Thank you.
I also just wanted to take the time to mention Commissioner Ida Claire as well. And awesome. And then also our Commissioner Anthony Safarian. And then I will pass it back.
And with that, now we will move to agenda item 2, approval of the April 2022 meeting minutes. I believe everyone has a copy of them in their packet and has had a chance to look at them. Would like any comments or questions that we might have, and failing that, then we'll get to a motion to approve.
I think we need a motion first, esteemed colleague. So I would move that we approve the April minutes.
I second Jacqueline Jack.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second now. Are there comments, questions?
We should always recite our names so we know for the record.
So this is Commissioner Wheelie, hearing no comments or questions. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any nays? Hearing none, any abstentions?
Aye.
And we have approval.
Who was the abstention, please?
This is Hector Ramirez. I was the abstention.
Yep, I missed you. Sorry, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we will move to agenda item 3. Comments from the public on issues not on the agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to offer a comment today on any item that is not on the agenda?
Yes, hello. I apologize. This is William Railing. I do not have a raised hand function visible in my Zoom. May I speak?
You may.
Good morning. My name is Will Railing. I'm calling on behalf of Accessible San Francisco, which is an unincorporated nonprofit association based, of course, in San Francisco. I would like to speak today in favor of the CAS program, suggest a way that the CCDA can possibly further assist the program. Of course, the DSA is the agency in charge of the CAS program, but that doesn't mean there aren't ways that the CCDA can help. And indeed, the CCDA has helped the CAS program in many, many ways. By the way, I am not a CASP, just a supporter of the CAS program as a program that has greatly improved accessibility in the state and can do even more in the future with some help. People continue to attain their CASP certifications, which is a rigorous process, as it should be. But meanwhile, some of the CASPs are retiring or for other reasons choosing not to renew their certification. The net result is that as of this morning, there are on the DSA CASP list, there are approximately 830 active CASPs. So should that, the growth in the number of CASPs has somewhat leveled off. Should it decline, that would not be good for accessibility statewide. And if the program could grow, I mean, perhaps double the number of CASPs from what there are today, that could have a huge impact. And so I just hope you will consider ways that maybe that can occur. One thing I'd like to point out today, and later on today on the agenda, you're going to be talking about ways in which the state may look into enforcing the requirements of SB 1608, the Construction Related Accessibility Standard Compliance Act, which is often called by its acronym CRASCA. And there's been some issues with, I guess, some people not complying with requirements that were set forth in CRASCA. And so I'm going to limit my comment to something that was not, that is not part of that agenda item. And that is section D 1 and 2 of CRASCA, which is the requirement that every local agency in the state have CASPs on staff. And there are 2 parts to that requirement. The first was that every local agency in the state has to have at least 1 CASP on staff, who is a building inspector. That took effect in 2010. There was a later requirement that kicked in that the local jurisdictions have to each have sufficient CASPs to accomplish plan check and inspections and accessibility. That second standard is very nebulous and therefore probably difficult to enforce. The first standard, though, simply having at least 1 on staff who is a building inspector, that's very clear cut. And it's my evidence that it's not being complied with as well as it should is that of those 830 CASPs, fewer than half, significantly fewer than half appear to be public CASPs working for public agencies. And there are 540 cities and counties in the state, plus many other local agencies that are required to have at least 1 CASP on staff pursuant to this law. And I would like to suggest that if this law could be better enforced, And if more jurisdictions would be therefore encouraging some of their staff people to attain their CASP certification, that could materially increase the number of CASPs over a couple of years. And that would be a great thing. And would, of course, also be a great thing for the successful enforcement of accessibility requirements within those local jurisdictions. Thank you very much.
This is Commissioner Wheelie. Thank you very much for your comment. Are there others who wish to make comment on anything not on the agenda?
Commissioner Wheelie, I do not see any hands raised or any indication in the chat of public comments.
That being the case, then we will close agenda item 3 and we'll move to agenda item 4, the introduction and swearing in of new Commissioner Hector Ramirez. Anthony Safarian, I believe you're going to do the swearing in, and Phil McPhail, I believe you're going to do the introduction and the thank you.
Yes, Mr. Ramirez, please raise your right hand. I, Hector Ramirez, and repeat after me. I, Hector Ramirez,
I, Hector Ramirez,
do solemnly swear
I'm sorry, I'm reading the card. Do solemnly swear, I'm following in my card. This is Hector.
that I will support and defend
That I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
That I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental ovation or purpose of evasion.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you. This is Operations Manager Phil McFall. I wanted to thank both Commissioner Ramirez, welcome, and Commissioner Safarian. Thank you for your time today. And I wanted to share a little bit of information, a brief biography of Commissioner Hector Ramirez. Commissioner Hector Ramirez is a lifelong disability advocate that has volunteered and held board positions at various organizations throughout Los Angeles County, as well as the state of California. Commissioner Ramirez is a board member for Disability Rights California and is on the board of directors for the National Disability Rights Network. They focus on increasing health services for immigrants, where Commissioner Ramirez serves as chair for both Access for All and underserved cultural communities and Latino underserved cultural communities under the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. This organization also works with county, state, and national organizations, as well as policymakers, to contribute to legislation to reduce mental health disparities targeting underrepresented communities. And again, I want to welcome you, Commissioner Hector Ramirez, and I want to turn it back over to Commissioner Doug Wheelie.
And Commissioner Wheelie, Commissioner Ramirez, congratulations, welcome. I look forward to the day when we can meet you face to face. But in the meantime, we are very grateful for the skills and abilities that you bring to the work that we do, and very grateful that you've signed on. Thank you very much. Do you have anything that you would like to say to us now that you're newly commissioned?
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Hector Ramirez. First of all, I really just want to thank Assembly Speaker Anthony Redondo for this opportunity. And I really do look forward to working with each and every one of you to advance the mission and work that you're all doing. I do wanted to mention that I am Apache Chiricahua in Mexican. And I just really wanted to, of course, just celebrate the fact that I get to join during both Disability Pride Month and a day after we're celebrating the 32nd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I'm really, really looking forward to working with each and every one of you. And I'm very, very glad to be here. I apologize I'm not there in person. We have a COVID outbreak at home, so we've been taking care of it. So my first concern not only is only to take care of me, but to protect all of our staff. So if we can do anything remotely, safely, I will do it. But I look forward to the day when we can share space together. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much. So with that, I will close agenda item 4 and we will move to agenda item 5. And I'm pleased to lead this agenda item because it's very personal to me. This is the acknowledgement of a state resolution in honor of the retirement of Rex Heim, the now retired President and Chief Executive Officer of California Business Properties Association. There's a bit of history I want to share here, that the origins of California Commission on Disability Access come out of a dialogue between Rex Heim on behalf of the business community and California Business Properties on the one hand, and the Centers for Independent Living community on the other hand, that there ought to be a venue, an opportunity for dialogue between the disability community and the business community, a dialogue by which we might increase our awareness of each other, increase our awareness of the needs of the disability community, that those who own the built environment would have an opportunity to better understand the needs of the disability community and make improvements for the betterment of us all. And out of that short story came the formation of California Commission on Disability Access. There was reserved to CBPA the right to appoint a member of its board to the Disability Commission, obviously with the governor's approval. I am finishing a decade as the representative of CBPA on the CCDA Commission, and I'm delighted to be here. And, you know, as a part of our structure, the chair of this commission must be a member of the disability community, and the vice chair must be a member of the business community, all in keeping with this notion of building dialogue between the two and bringing us together. So this agenda item is about Rex's retirement. Rex has served at CBPA for some 38 years. He has been instrumental in a number of things, including the formation of the CASP program, and very supportive of what we do. There was a celebration in the spring of this year in Newport Beach, the 50th anniversary of California Business Properties Association, and an award ceremony. When our former executive director, Angela Jamot, heard of Rex's retirement, she did two things. She initiated the state resolution adopted in Rex's honor for his work. And then, because she could not attend the awards dinner, she and staff put together a video that was shown at the 50th anniversary celebration of CBPA. And it was quite remarkable. I think we should roll it now. I'm in it because she's looking in the video at me as though she were there on the stage. It's very amusing, but it's very touching. And I look forward to all of you having an opportunity to see it. So whoever's rolling tape, it's time.
Hi, my name is Angela Jamont, and I currently serve as the Executive Director of the California Commission on Disability Access. I want to first begin by thanking the California Business Properties Association for carving out a little time on your program to allow me to share. and actually for Doug Wheely for saying, you got to be here some kind of way, and here I am. So I want to begin by just saying, Rex, thank you for all that you've done for the California Commission on Disability Access. I do want to share a little story about how I met you before you met me. And that was when I was a staffer and I was at a meeting, and there you were in the midst of this at the Capitol, tons of folks sharing maybe at heated levels at times. But you, on the other hand, had this calmness that commanded the room to be still. And I thought to myself, who is this guy in that Hawaiian shirt? Learned it was Rex Hines. As the years went past, I was appointed the director of the commission, and I was able to meet with you one-on-one. And at that meeting, it was still, again, this warmth and this true concern of my success as the director. I will always cherish that, as well as the board, because your concern was not just about Angela, but for the entire commission. You and others had a vision to bring business and the disability community together, to come together to create laws that benefit all. And indeed, we've been doing that. And we know that was because of your vision. And we thank you for that. With that said, we want to also recognize that the legislation has created a resolution on your behalf for CCDA. And so at this time, Doug is supposed to be bringing it over to you. And we would say that the state of California is also recognizing you for the hard work you have done over these years, and we salute you. I close by saying thank you again, and may God bless you and keep you through these next chapters of your life. Thank you.
I want to share briefly that, you know, the commercial real estate industry is full of too many old white guys. And this was a room of old white guys and women. It was the real estate industry delighted at Angela's presentation. It speaks to our future. It speaks to what we strive for. And I'm very grateful for what she did. Rex is now retired. And I will add this as a final comment: whether you are a person of prayer or a person of goodwill, Rex's health is failing badly. He has a major procedure going today, I think, and we are all in high hopes for his future. He's been battling cancer for a long time, and I would ask you to hold him in your thoughts. Thank you. The floor is open to comments from others on this item.
This is Commissioner Lemus. I would definitely send up a prayer for Rex, and I just would like to go on record as saying that I so appreciate all of Rex's work with us to get the commissions in order, particularly around our back and forth with our budget. And I think that we can give a shout out and a thanks to Rex for the fact that we have a fully staffed office now that we can do our work. We wouldn't have been able to get to that point without Rex's participation behind the scenes to look out for us. And so we wish Rex well and send up many prayers of healing for him as he goes through this procedure. Thank you.
So a number of years ago, this is Commissioner Holloway, a number of years ago, Vice Chair Wheely invited me to lunch downtown at a hotel and said, I want you to come have lunch with myself and Rex Heim, who I'd known for years and years. And so we went to lunch and I thought it was kind of fun. And then they both told me that they thought I should become a member of this commission. And as a business person and a member of the disability community, you know, kind of having both hats. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank Doug and Rex for this wonderful opportunity to participate on it. It's been rewarding and fun, and I've enjoyed it. And that's not a resignation comment either. So it's great, and I want to thank them for bringing me here.
Thank you, Brian. Are there other comments from the commission or any in the public or any online? Okay, hearing none, then I just want to say thank you to staff for allowing this on the agenda today. It's a great honor to share our origins and the work that Rex has done for us. God bless you, Rex. And with that, we will close agenda item 5 and move to agenda item 6, the CCDA strategic goals. Data and research analyst Teresa Brown, you're going to lead this one as I understand it.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Wheely. Just to give you a brief update, we are currently working on our strategic goal for 2022 through 2023. Is a brief recap of what has triggered the current strategic goal. Last year, we were working on the historical submission data entry project. And as you remember from that project, we were collecting data from the federal district, the state superior court, amended cases, as well as the first complaints, and also the case resolution reports that had been submitted from Civil Code section 55.32. This was a data collection mandate. And the purpose of this data entry project was to provide information to our stakeholders regarding the alleged violations. And the purpose of it was also to create a educational opportunity for the stakeholders to learn about their ADA requirements for Title III construction-related expectations. And where the historical data entry project began was from our original files that we had in a database called the Electronic Database Management System. And those files began from 2012 through 2018. These was a manual collection, and our goal was to eventually shift them over to our current database, which is a legal portal. The inception of that database occurred in December of 2019. And since then, we now have been working on transferring all of the files from the original database, the EDMS database, into our legal portal. And this is where our 2022 strategic goal begins. A big portion of the strategic goal is working on standardizing our data fields for importing these historical complaints, as well as our amended complaints and our case resolution reports, as well as working on shifting the links of the actual complaint that would be attached to the data file. And as we come to what we are working on currently with our strategic goal, which will be 2022 through 2023, we're working on years 2012 through 2020, importing all of that data into the legal portal. Currently, we're in the process of finalizing 2018 and 2019, and then we'll continue every 3 months, finalizing our data migration, working on the data fields, making sure the updates are correct, with portal enhancements, our product stabilization, as well as eventually creating a strong enough portal system that will sustain a real-time public accessible tool. Our strategic goal began in January 1st of 2022, and it will end in June of June 30th of 2023. Commissioner Wheelie, are there any questions regarding our current strategic goal for the data migration of our historical data into our current legal portal?
Thank you for asking. Floor is open to commissioners with questions or comments. No, hearing none. Are there any from the public that would like to comment on this?
Commissioner Wheelie, I do not see any hands raised in the chat or any commentary.
And thank you very much for your presentation and your great work.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. I think we're now going to move to Phil McFall on the accessible parking campaign.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheelie. This is, again, Operations Manager Phil McFall, and I wanted to talk briefly about the accessible parking campaign. And right now we are, as you know, working in 2 different work groups, business owners and operators and the construction specialist group. Now, within those 2 groups, we're developing toolkits, and those toolkits are in the process of developing content. So each work group is working, and they're developing these paragraphs that we're reviewing in a group situation in order to create the content that will make up these toolkits. We are on schedule to have drafts ready to meet our strategic goal by the end of September. So we are currently meeting, we'll be meeting twice in August with each group, and then in September as well, and with the intent to have a draft ready for our strategic goal to make sure that we are on path to successfully complete our strategic goal in 2023. The end products that we hope to come up with are going to be a reference guide. So with the business owners and operators group, we want a reference guide, and it's going to have warning signs within that reference guide. The group, the construction industry group, it's going to be, again, a reference guide, but it's also going to have a detailed checklist for construction specialists to review, to refer to, I should say. And what question? Oh, let me pass it to Commissioner Doug Wheelie to get questions.
So are there questions from the commission on what we've heard from Mr. McFall? Yes, I declare.
Thank you, Doug. So I'm curious on the successful parking campaign. Will it also include accessible parking?
We can't hear Commissioner Claire.
Oh, sorry. Is that any better? I'm curious if the parking campaign will also address charging, which is not considered parking, but obviously has design requirements separate. And so clarifying that requirement for for parking lots, I guess I should say.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the question. This Operations Manager Phil McFall, that is in discussion with the groups right now. We haven't come to a conclusion one way or the other on that, but that is something that is on the table. There has been at length discussion about if and how to include that information into these checklists. So great question. Thank you.
Are there other comments from the commission? Okay, seeing none, I'll open it to the public. Are there comments from the public on this agenda item and especially this report?
Commissioner Wheelie, I do not see any hands raised or any indication in the chat for commentary from members of the public.
Thank you. Then I'll close this item with a personal comment that the intent of CCDA of building dialogue between the building community and the disability community is working. I see it on the projects where we build parking lots and parking spaces. I see it in my design teams. I see it in my construction teams. There's a long way to go, but we are learning. Thank you. And it's for the good of us all. I will also suggest that the staff and study group at California Business Properties Association is putting a lot of thought right now into the whole notion of integrating EV charging stations into the broader context of parking lots, spending a lot of time thinking about the economics of them, how does it work, but also thinking especially about the function of them. And Phil, CBPA staff would be a resource for us. There's a lot of thought going on there, has been for a while.
Mr. Vice Chair, just one thing I want to make a comment here. one of the things has made this successful is not only do we have cast members on this task force, but we have actual contractors on board. And so we're designing a document, and the people who would actually use it are helping to design it. So they're looking at, what's important first, what's important second, where do we want to put the background data, that kind of thing. And I just think that this has been in my mind, the most successful project that the committee has been involved in since I've been on board. And I also want to compliment staff doing a really great job on this project. As we've been talking about what we want to have and where it goes, at our last meeting, staff actually put it in visual form. They put out a draft of the document, and we could actually see it and decide, oh, maybe we ought to move this and maybe we ought to add to that. And they're just doing a great job. So the committee, the task force or the working group is doing a great job. We have a very good consultant who's an architect at CAPS sort of leading the group. But I just want to thank staff for their excellent work on this project.
Thank you for your comment, Commissioner Holloway. Commissioner Clare, I think you had one also.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. So I did want to advise everyone that beginning January 1st, 2023, electric vehicle charging stations are required for new non-residential construction. And so we're as a rulemaking entity, we're ramping this up. And so providing that clarity, I think it could be a subsequent project or perhaps part of this. I don't want to delay this project, but I think the clarity needs to be put out there to define them as separate services and perhaps advance other clarity with resources. But we do also have a free video on our DSA LMS on how to provide accessibility to electric vehicle charging. So I wanted to be just offer that out there and to be very sensitive as well that housing facilities and non-residential facilities have different requirements. So there's a lot of, we don't mean to make it complex. It's sometimes in alignment with federal standards that makes it complex, which is fine, but I'm just putting that out there to let you know that it's coming. So thanks.
Thank you. Actually, thank all three of you for your comments and suggestions, and I will absolutely follow up on each and every one of those. We will make those a priority. Thank you.
Okay, last call then. This is Commissioner Wheelie. Anybody else with a comment on this item before we close it? Hearing none, thank you for the vigorous conversation. Agenda item 6 is closed, and we will move to agenda item 7, legislative bill tracking, and 7 bills apparently to hear about today. And we're back to Operations Manager Phil McFall. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheelie. This is Operations Manager Phil McFall, and I wanted to actually introduce Ms. Karina Roy. Are you, Karina, are you available? Hi.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. All right, so I'll go ahead and begin. My name is Karina Roy. I am a legislative consultant with the Department of General Services. We'll start off with the first bill listed under agenda item number 7. That's AB 30 by Assemblymember Kalra. This is the Equitable Outdoor Access Act. This is relatively new. This bill states that it would be state policy to ensure that all Californians have meaningful access to state cultural and natural resources, and policy that it would be to minimize limitation of access to sustainable or limitation of sustainable public access to public lands such as local, regional, state, and federal parks, rivers, lakes, etc. The bill would direct relevant agencies to consider and incorporate, where appropriate, this policy when revising or establishing policies, regulations, or grant criteria, or making expenditures. The next bill, AB 1604 by Assemblymember Holden, is the Upward Mobility Act of 2022. This bill is a reintroduction essentially of AB 105 from last year, which had been vetoed by the governor. This bill would require by January 1st, 2023, that all state boards and commissions consisting of one or more volunteer members or commissioners must have one volunteer board member or commissioner from an underrepresented community as defined. This provision would only apply as vacancies on boards or commissions occur, and the requirement only applies to a vacancy appointment by the governor, the chair of the board or commission, the speaker of the assembly, the president pro tem of the Senate, or any combination thereof. The definition of underrepresented community has been slightly amended, and now it states that it includes, but is not limited to, individuals who self-identify as Black or African American, Hispanic or Latino, Asian or Pacific Islander, Native American, Native Hawaiian, Native Alaskan, LGBT, veterans, and physically or mentally disabled persons as defined under 12926 of the Government Code. In addition to the requirements on boards and commissions, the bill would also require the State Personnel Board to investigate complaints filed by employees in a state agency's EEO program and personnel office, as well as complaints by other civil service employees, applicants, or members of the public that allege violations of civil service law, and they must report the findings to the State Personnel Board. This bill is set for hearing in Senate Appropriations on August 1st. The next bill that we are tracking is effectively not moving forward this year. It would have been AB 1733 by Assemblymember Quirk. This bill would have modified the Bagley-Keene Act to specify that a meeting under the act would have included a meeting held entirely by teleconference, and it would require all open meetings to be held by teleconference, and the state body would have had to provide the public with the means to remotely hear and observe the meeting, as well as a two-way audiovisual platform or telephonic service so that they could participate in the meeting. However, this bill failed to pass out of the first house. It was never heard by a policy committee. So this bill is effectively not moving forward for the 2022 session. Next up is AB 2164 by Assemblymember Lee. This is disability access funding. This bill would make permanent the increased fees that were imposed on local building permits or business permits by AB 1379 from 2017. This bill was amended on May 19th to require that only local jurisdictions have to use a portion of those funds to provide financial assistance to small businesses for construction of physical accessibility improvements. It was also amended to remove DSA CCDA dual reporting requirement on the use of those funds, and DSA would just share the reports submitted by the local entities with CCDA directly. This bill is currently waiting hearing in Senate Appropriations Committee. AB 2829 by Assemblymember Lowe, the CASP Inspection Grant Program. We are no longer tracking this since it failed to move out of Assembly Appropriations. So it is effectively not moving forward for the remainder of the year. Next up, we have AB 2917 by Assemblymember Mike Fong. This is state law disability access. This bill would add complaints related to internet accessibility to the types of accessibility related complaints which attorneys must submit to CCDA. It would also require CCDA to develop educational materials related to accessibility standards for website. The bill was further amended June 20th to include the directives from a previous version of AB 2962, So now, in addition to the internet accessibility issues, it also directs CCDA to develop educational materials regarding access violations in parking lots and exterior paths of travel. And this bill is awaiting a vote on the Senate floor. So next on the agenda, we have AB 2962. As I mentioned earlier, this bill was gutted and amended June 30th, and it no longer impacts CCDA. So DGS is no longer tracking this particular bill, but the previous requirements of 2962 were absorbed into AB 2917. And that is it for the legislative update.
Thank you, Karina. And I want to pass it now back over to Commissioner Doug Wheelie.
Commissioner Doug Wheelie. Karina Roy, I listen to legislative updates, I think on average 8 times a year. That was perhaps the most succinct and precise and well done legislative update report I've heard ever. And thank you for your great work. Nicely done. Are there comments from the commission on anything that we have heard from Karina Roy?
This is Commissioner Elhessan.
Yes.
I have a question on AB 2917 in regards to CCDA's role. If passed, my understanding then it'll give us more, it'll expand our role in education and outreach, which is what I oversee in regards to accessibility.
And that's your question.
Yeah, so it's going to be more expansive is what I'm understanding.
Well, it would now include education on internet accessibility, and for that particular thing, yes, that would make it more expansive for the types of education CCDA would be doing.
Okay, so this is the question to the commission as a whole. So does that mean that we, specifically our role in the Education Outreach Committee, need to be more, well, I guess we need to have technical expertise or access that in order to be able to appropriately identify key compliance issues that we can then post and pass on to businesses as well as to the state. Are we going to have that available to us? I guess my question is.
Commissioner Paravagna would like to speak to that.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Paravagna. I have, in my role as interim executive director, have had some discussions with the director of the
Commissioner Paravagna, we can't hear you.
Okay, thank you. In my my role as interim executive director, I have had some discussions with the Department of Rehabilitation's director, Joe Xavier. The Department of Rehabilitation has developed a pretty comprehensive set of training and resources for IT access. It's geared toward Title II entities, but internet access at the end of the day is internet access. And so we were talking about partnering and using their tools with our collaboration, and where we could make a substantial contribution is by enhancing the outreach.
Excellent.
To get the tools that are developed and current in the hands of people who could benefit from them. And I think that would bring state government together to work smartly. I think it would meet the intent of this bill. The discussions I had with Rehab were prior to the expansion of the role for parking and path of travel access. So the discussion was limited just to IT access, but I think that would be the path forward if this bill passes as it's now written.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Paravagna. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheelie again. Are there other comments from the commission on this legislative report?
Commissioner Wheelie, we have Commissioner Ramirez who would like to speak. His hand is raised.
Excellent.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Hex Ramirez. I think definitely partnering with the Department of Rehabilitation tool set is actually very important. At Disability Awareness California, we have worked with the Department of Rehabilitation to develop those toolkits, and as you mentioned, particularly for Title II implementation. And I would also likewise, we would recommend reaching out to Disability Awareness California IT specialties, because we have been doing, this is one of the bills that we worked on. It was one of our priorities, particularly around the internet issue. So we did have a significant amount of federal input from the FCC and some of our local partners in providing those recommendations. And with it, we have similar types of guidelines that we have been able to source out with all of our other state agencies that are working on similar type of initiatives. So that's one of the suggestions that I would bring to the table. In regards to technical expertise, since we've managed to kind of gather that at this point, we're actually having a summit with the FCC next week, particularly around this issue for healthcare services and education.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramirez. Are there other comments from the commission?
Commissioner Wheelie, I do not see any other hands raised from other commissioners that would like to speak or commentary in the chat.
Thank you. Then I will ask the public if there is anyone from the public who wishes to comment here, and ask staff if there's anyone on Zoom raising their hand.
Commissioner Wheelie, I do not see any members of the public with their hands raised or indication in the chat for commentary from members of the public.
Thank you. Then we will close agenda item 7. With that, we will move to agenda item 8, receiving California Title III construction-related disability legal access legal complaints, an update and a discussion. And Presley, I believe you're going to lead this discussion.
Yes, well, I am going to introduce Council Angie Esquivel, who will be presenting a PowerPoint on this topic. So I wanted to give a brief little biography for her. Angie Esquivel is a senior trial counsel for the State Bar of California. Ms. Esquivel has worked for the State Bar of California since January of 2017 and is assigned to major cases, including but not limited to cases concerning attorneys' alleged misappropriation and failure to comply with California Civil Code Section 55.32. Ms. Esquivel's primary goal as a State Bar prosecutor is to ensure public protection and that California attorneys are upholding their ethical obligations, not only to their clients and the public, but also to the profession as a whole. So I am going to allow her to share her screen so we can see her PowerPoint.
Thank you.
And I will hand it over to Councilor Esquivel. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angie Esquivel, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. The primary purpose of my presentation today is just to share with the CCDA how the State Bar gets complaints in our office and what we do with those complaints, and also how we ensure that the CCDA is receiving notification as required under the rules. So with that, we will start. The way that the State Bar prosecutes these type of violations are under Business and Professions Code Section 6106.2a, which indicates that it shall constitute cause for the imposition of discipline for an attorney to engage in any conduct in the violation of Civil Code Section 55.31b or c and 55.32a or b. And I'll break it down a little further which each subsection is, and I'll talk about it in depth. So a California attorney's reporting requirements under Civil Code Section 55.32. There are two subsections. One is subsection A, which deals with demand letters, and subsection B, which deals with complaints. With regards to demand letters under Civil Code Section 55.32a, If an attorney submits a demand letter to a party, let's say a lodging establishment, saying that they have some construction-related accessibility claim, the demand letter must include the attorney's state bar license number within the letter. And the letter must be sent to the CCDA within 5 days of it being sent to that opposing party or lodging establishment. There are specific requirements as to the language that can be contained in a demand letter. So if a demand letter is alleging a construction-related accessibility claim, it has to state the facts sufficient to allow a reasonable person to identify the basis for the violation or the violation supporting the claim, including 3 things. So one would be the plain language or explanation of the specific access barrier or barriers the individual encountered. Secondly, the way in which the barrier encountered interfered with the individual's full and equal use or access. And third, the date or dates of particular occasion that this occurred. So for example, I've seen complaints come into the state bar indicating that an attorney had sent a lodging establishment or various lodging establishments access-related complaints regarding accessibility to parking and or pool or spa lifts. So in these demand letters, what the state bar looks for is to make sure that the claim is in plain language. What is the alleged violation that occurred? And on what dates did this alleged violation occur? And how did it prevent this individual from having equal access or use to the property or the lodging establishment in California? Under Civil Code Section 55.31B, the demand letters cannot have a demand for money. Attorneys are prohibited from asking lodging establishments or parties that are in alleged violation for equal access for a demand for money. They can only state in a demand letter that the property owner or tenant or both may be civilly liable for actual and statutory damages for a violation of a construction-related accessibility requirement. So it says that that whatever violation they're alleging may subject them to civil liability. It cannot say, hey, if you pay us $5,000, we can make this go away. That's not permissible under the statute. And secondly, the demand letter can also satisfy the requirements for pre-litigation notice if pre-litigation notice is required by a specific jurisdiction. Under Section 55.31, the demand letters allow individuals or parties to engage in settlement discussions once the demand letter has been issued. So once a demand letter goes out to a lodging establishment or to an individual that is an alleged violation of some accessibility or construction related claim, that individual or lodging establishment can reach out to the attorney to try to resolve the issue, to come to terms. How can they resolve it? Are they going to resolve it by fixing the issue, or are they going to make payment to the attorney's client? That's permissible. So there are no settlement discussions that are prohibited through the demand letters. Now, the most important complaints that we receive at the state bar are under Civil Code Section 55.32B, which deal with complaints that are actually filed in courts throughout California. So under Section 55.32B, if an attorney files a complaint on behalf of their client in court, the attorney has to, within 5 days, send a copy of that complaint to the CCDA and give information regarding that complaint. In addition, that attorney also has to, within 5 days, notify the CCDA of any case resolution, meaning a judgment, settlement, or dismissal. Within that notification, after the resolution, the attorney must inform the CCDA whether the construction-related accessibility violation has been remedied in full or in part after the complaint was filed or after the demand letter was issued. They must also state if it was not remedied in whole or in part, was there some other form of resolution regarding that accessibility claim? And then lastly, whether or not the defendant submitted an application for an early evaluation conference or the date of the early evaluation conference. So under 55.32B, the attorney is required to send to the CCDA within 5 days the copy of the complaint, but also within 5 days, a copy of the case resolution or information regarding the case resolution. In the past, Ms. Jamat from the CCDA was very helpful to our office because we received a complaint on an attorney who had filed approximately 300 or more complaints throughout California against various lodging establishments. So it was difficult for the State Bar to not only name all these cases that had been filed on behalf of one particular client, but what was more challenging was that we had to check with the CCDA as to each complaint, whether that specific attorney had notified the CCDA on each and every one of the 300 complaints that had been filed throughout California. And Ms. Jamat was able and very helpful to our prosecution in that case. So I'm happy to hear that the CCDA has transitioned into the legal portal and tracking how the complaints or demand letters are being tracked within the CCDA's office. So the State Bar has a duty to investigate any violations, whether they are violations alleged in the demand letters or in the complaints. If the State Bar receives a complaint from a member of the public, a lodging establishment, or even the CCDA themselves, if the CCDA gets notice that an attorney has not complied with a specific requirement dealing with the demand letters or the complaints, the CCDA can also file a complaint with our office informing us that an attorney has allegedly not complied, and we'll investigate further to see what the extent of that violation may be. So the codes that, or the civil codes that comport with that are 55.31D1, 55.32C, and 55.32E. So the State Bar complaints, one thing that the State Bar wants to ensure with regards to the complaints are to ensure that the attorneys are representing real clients, that there are not fictitious individuals, and that they are real claims as well, that they're not filing frivolous filings throughout courts in California or sending fake demand letters to individuals for the purpose of what we call shakedowns. So in our industry, what we want to ensure is that attorneys are being truthful with these filings or these demand letters. We want to make sure that the people that they purport to represent actually do exist, are not deceased, have authorized this attorney to represent them in these claims. Because if you look at the totality, let's say if an attorney represents one client in 300 different claims that settle at $5,000 each, that's a huge payday for an attorney. So we want to make sure that these claims are not only real, but that the clients also exist, and that these attorneys aren't doing these things or filing these complaints or issuing these demand letters for the sole purpose of lining their own pockets. We also have to ensure that the attorneys, when they receive any settlement payments, that they are depositing the payments into a client trust account and holding those funds for the client until disbursement is required. So we want to ensure not only compliance with the law, but also protect the public from untruthful attorneys. Under Civil Code Section 55.32F1, the State Bar is obligated to provide annual reports to the legislator regarding how many complaints we receive regarding the demand letters and complaints. And there's a link below that you can check and see from, I believe, 2014 to 2020, how many complaints we've received. We haven't received that many complaints. It's very unusual, or it's not highly likely that we receive accessibility related complaints under 55.32 often. I have prosecuted 2 attorneys for violating their duty to inform the CCDA of within 5 days of filing a complaint and the case resolutions. So although it's not very common, it does happen, and we just track it within our office. Is there any questions from anyone?
I see we have questions from commissioners. Go right ahead.
Hello, this is Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson. I want to thank you for an outstanding presentation.
Thank you.
And I also would like to know, is it possible to get a copy of your PowerPoint?
Yes, I'll send that right over. I'll send it right over. And I believe the person assisting me, Presley Strother, also already has a copy of it. And I also just wanted to mention, I forgot to mention earlier, I'm glad to hear that there's a bill 2917 that's currently going to be, that's under submission, because the State Bar has also received complaints regarding website accessibility, but no law has existed. So the State Bar couldn't pursue those matters because there was a loophole. There was no law indicating or requiring an attorney to have to report to the CCDA whether they sent a demand letter or filed a complaint relating to websites. So I'm happy to hear that that's under submission right now, and hopefully the law does pass so that the State Bar can prosecute attorneys for violating those as well. From what I know, or what I think, is that since there is this gap in the law, it might allow attorneys to do shakedowns of various websites or companies or organizations.
Do we
Hi.
have other?
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry, this is Presley Strother speaking. I just wanted to say first, thank you, Councilor Esquivel. It was an amazing presentation. And secondly, I do have the PowerPoint, so I'll make sure to send that out.
Thank you
just
so
so
much.
everyone knows. Yes, of course. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Wheelie. Are there other commissioners who have questions or comments they'd like to share?
This is Commissioner Lemus. I want to also echo. Hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to echo as well, Ms. Esquivel, and it's Esquivel, so we'll say your name correctly. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and I'm so happy to hear that we were able to help you in that situation with the person who hadn't filed the hundreds of lawsuits. I remember well when we were having a presentation and someone from the community was telling us about all of these cases in a particular county. And we were like, what are you talking about? And when we actually were able to look up some of them, we saw it was true. And so I'm glad there's some accountability, because as you can imagine, that was a large number of cases to hear about and not know what was going on. So it really, I think, helped our credibility as a commission when we were able to follow through with your office and make sure that that was addressed, because, you know, at some point people have to also be somewhat confident in our data. And we've always been concerned that our data didn't match what was going on. And so this is one of the areas where we can ensure the data integrity is intact by ensuring that people who are not doing what they need to do start doing what they need to do. So thank you for your cooperation. The report was excellent, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you so much. The State Bar also looks forward to working with the CCDA moving forward. And the CCDA was, I do want to just echo, was very instrumental in the prosecution of that matter, because it was really difficult for us to track the 300 or more cases that this attorney had filed, but also to cross-check that with the CCDA stats were very instrumental and helpful to us to ensure that our prosecution and our charges were accurate when we brought them forth against this attorney.
Are there other comments from members of the commission?
Commissioner Wheelie, I do not see any hands raised from the commissioners or any commentary in the chat.
Thank you. Then I will open it to the public. Are there comments from the public, Zoom or otherwise? This is your opportunity to speak.
Hi, Ms. Esquivel, if I may.
Yes.
May.
Hi, David Peters here. Just a quick question. Did I understand your comments correctly that the State Bar has more or less concluded that under existing law, demand letters relating to website inaccessibility, perhaps making money demands, are currently permissible?
They are currently permissible just because there is no law regulating that. So I'm happy to hear that there's currently Bill 2917 that's under submission When we started receiving complaints against attorneys that were sending these demand letters, I personally called the CCDA to inquire whether there was anything being done or if there was any tracking being done. I had done some legal research and hadn't found anything. So I'm happy to hear that there's a bill, and hopefully that bill passes so that way it can authorize the state bar to prosecute and investigate those matters.
All the research we've done, a little group of us have circulated information offline, suggests that such demand letters should be prohibited under existing law without the need for a change. Is it possible to send you some of the cases we've come across?
Yes. If you can send them to my email that's listed here on the page before you, I would be happy to look at that, and I can also filter that through our office because we don't have any particular civil code or business and professions code that we've been able to pursue the matters under.
Understood. And thank you for that information. The other question that came up, or that I noticed in the comments, is it a continuing issue getting attorneys to send copies of complaints that have been filed to the CCDA? I've heard comments to suggest that's not happening as hoped, or as often as hoped in some cases. Is this still a significant issue?
So I don't know personally what the CCDA, what information the CCDA has or doesn't have, but I only know from the state bar standpoint that the complaints that we have coming into our office aren't as voluminous as maybe the complaints or information or notification that may be coming into the CCDA personally. So our office only receives complaints from members of the public or lodging establishments that are personally affected by an attorney's alleged misconduct. So we only know what information is provided to us, and then we take that and investigate it further. But if on the link on the previous page right here at the bottom, in the statistics, you'll see that there aren't that many complaints that come into our office, and you'll be able to see it from an annual point of view, and it'll show you. I don't think we don't have that many complaints that we receive.
I ask only because Angela Jamot, Executive Director Jamot's prior comments suggested that this was still a challenge, that complaints were still being filed, they weren't being sent to the CCDA, maybe not, certainly not in the numbers that were previously expressed. But I did find myself wondering if it would make sense to consider some arrangement whereby a case could not proceed until the filing attorney included a declaration or a comment in the complaint that on a certain date, the complaint had been sent to the CCDA, perhaps through the web portal. It just seemed like that might be a way of eliminating the problem altogether. But I think Ms. Jamot probably had a lot more information about the extent to which complaints are being filed and not shared with the CCDA.
I think that's true. I think Ms. Jamot is speaking from the standpoint of the organization of the CCDA, and I'm only speaking from the standpoint of the State Bar of California. I don't have the same information, or I don't have equal access to whatever complaints or information the CCDA receives. But what we do, or what we can do, is if the CCDA knows of any violation, they can just file a complaint with our office, and we'll look into it further as to how many cases or complaints that attorney has filed and not complied with Civil Code Section 55.32.
Okay, thank you for the information. Sorry to take up so much of your time. Thanks also for an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wheelie again, and thank you for that question. That was excellent. Are there others from the public who wish to address this agenda item?
Commissioner Wheelie, I'm not seeing any hands raised from members of the public or any indication in the chat box regarding commentary.
Great. Council, thank you for your presentation. It was excellent. I have a couple of closing comments myself. I will echo what has been said about Angela Jamat's thoughts about the reporting compliance, that it has been for the decade that I have been on the commission a problem that we read about suits and groups of suits that have not been reported to us. It has been an enormous problem from day one. My sense is that it's getting better, but that it is still inadequate. In that context, I'll offer a personal comment. This is not the opinion of the commission, but it is my personal opinion. I have held a state of California Department of Real Estate broker's license since 1976. If there were an instance of 300 failures to disclose, I would not have my license. If there were an instance where I falsely represented that I was representing a client when in fact I was representing my own interest, I would not have my license. I'm very encouraged by what I'm hearing today from the state bar, an activist opinion on blatant failure to comply with the law. And I'm very thankful. In the real estate world, we're dealing with civil rights. In the disability community, we're dealing with human rights. We ought to be strictly complying with the law in matters of human rights. And again, that's a personal opinion. That's not an official opinion of the vice chair of the commission, but I can't help but say thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, a brief apology. You are noted in the agenda as the senior trail counsel, not the senior trial counsel. And we will get that fixed for the record.
No problem. Thank you.
And with that, we will close this agenda item. We are running about 30 minutes ahead of schedule. I have conferred with staff. We are going to move now into agenda item 9 rather than take a lunch break. And then we'll take a lunch break following the operations manager's report.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheelie. This is Phil McFall, Operations Manager here at CCDA, and I wanted to give just a quick rundown on a couple of things that are top of mind for our staff here. One thing that I want to mention is we are making some progress on our Disability Access and Education Revolving Fund. One thing I wanted to highlight today is that we are in the process of developing a quick reference guide, which we refer to as a QRG. The QRG is a high-level explanation of what the Disability Access and Education Revolving Fund is. It's a brief look at what we're trying to do is take this document and we want to get it out to the cities of California to have them have a high-level understanding of what the Disability Access and Education Revolving Fund is. That's a long word. It's a long title, sorry. What our intent is to get this quick reference guide out to the members of the cities in California to have like I said, have a high level understanding of what the fund is. And then we have a 3-prong approach. The next thing we'd like to do is also have some informational sessions. Hopefully I got that right. Informational sessions, which we are going to go online and we are going to allow people to log in and be able to get a little bit deeper understanding. That's the next step beyond the quick reference guide. And then step 3, our hope is to get in front of people physically. So we are hoping to go to some neutral areas within California. We want to, visit not only, the Central Valley, but we want to go maybe to the Inland Empire, to the coast up north. But what our intent is to go to a site where people can come from, a few miles around to come and learn a little bit more about the Disability Access and Education Revolving Fund. These would be in person. These would be, we would do a pretty detailed explanation of the fund, have resources there available, and have our contact information and really try to develop the relationships around the state regarding this fund. And really, we really want people to understand what this fund is about, what they have access to, the funds they have access to, and how they can appropriately use those funds. And other than that, that's what we have going on with the Disability Access and Education Revolving Fund. And the other item I wanted to discuss today was the October 26, 2022 full commission meeting, which will be our next full commission meeting. we are, in light of Senate Bill 189, we're reevaluating whether that is something we want to do. And this is an item, I guess, that's open for discussion. I don't know if we want to talk about that today. Or we can talk about that at a different time or maybe offline, but based on the Senate Bill 189, which, you know, the requirement for people to come in person is no longer there. We need to reevaluate that, whether that's something we want to do in October. And that's all of the actual presentation material that I have, and I'm open for any questions or comments. Or let me pass it back to Commissioner Doug Wheelie for any comments or questions.
So Commissioner Wheelie again, are there questions from the commission in response to this report? I declare.
Phil, so I believe the October commission meeting was at DSA Los Angeles.
Yes.
So is the question whether or not we're going to have a physical location, or is
We can't hear you, Commissioner Claire.
Sorry, is the question whether or not we're going to have a physical location, or is the question, or are we going to attend full completely virtually? Is that the question?
That's
when you
the
said-
question,
Okay.
right? Sorry, thank you for the clarification. Yes, we are, you know, based on the ruling, we want to make sure that we were, you know, being sensitive to people's, you know, wishes to either attend in person or remotely. It is not a requirement for people to come and attend in person, to be present at the meeting. So yes, thank you for the clarification.
This is Commissioner Alhassan. I have a question in regards to Disability Access Revolving Fund.
Okay.
Do you have a number right now of currently what that is? How much is in the fund?
It's a fund. It's per city. So wow, it's per city. So each city, each location has their own fund. So there's no. I don't have a grand total of all the different cities what they have, but each city has an allotment of funds specific to their region, not necessarily to. We don't have a number for the entire state of California, if that makes sense.
No, I hear you. So then, since it's still with the local cities, how is that under? Do you know how it's categorized? Is it categorical funding under the general fund, or is it under building and safety? So that when I do talk to our city or local cities regarding that and educating them, what is the category? What is the funding under?
I believe that is, hold on, let me check my information. Give me 1 second.
Thanks.
This is Commissioner Lemus. I would suggest that we research that and then get back to Commissioner Alhassan. Also, my understanding is the retroactive amount was around $90,000. What we don't know is what we get ongoing once the backlog was collected, which we do have in the account.
That's in regards to our high frequency litigant fund? Is that the one we're talking about? Yeah. Our high
That's what I
frequency
thought we were talking about. Maybe I misunderstood. Are
This
we
is a little,
talking
yeah.
about?
No, that's a little bit different. So this is a different fund. This is our the high frequency litigant fund. I'll actually be talking about a little bit later in our gosh, I don't know why I keep doing that. The high frequency litigant fund is something I'll be talking about a little bit later. This Disability and Access and Education Revolving Fund those are funds that are the portion that we're discussing right now is a portion that goes to the specific cities, and
Right.
these are varying amounts of money that go to different, and it's based on the so it's a little bit different, but it's kind of the same. Sorry, I know I'm being a little bit confusing, but I don't have to. Okay, so let me go back to your question. I'll have to do some research and get back to you on what exact fund that's coming from. The high frequency litigant is, like I said, the $90,000 that you were speaking to, Commissioner Lemus, and it's actually at 120,000 right now. That sunsets in 2024. I'll be talking about that a little bit later. I won't go too deep into that, but for Commissioner Alhassan, I will get back to you with the categorization of those dollars.
Thank you. That'd be helpful in talking to the local cities so they know where to search, where that money is coming from. Thank you.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
I haven't addressed another question. This is Ida Claire. Thank you. So I've been reviewing this, which is great as an informational resource. I do want to consider something perhaps that could be added, and it may need that we need to go and get this through some legal counsel because I'm not an attorney.
Okay.
But we have been notified often that jurisdictional entities, instead of offering a CAS services, are requiring permit submittal to have a CAS review and sign off. And instead of having a resource within the building department. And DSA sees this as problematic because the enforcement entity has qualified immunity, and they also have they're collecting funds to provide that access review, and they're the only ones that have that enforcement action. An individual who hires a CASP to do their own review and the city doesn't provide that review doesn't have that qualified immunity. And so what arises from that is, A, what are the cities spending those funds on if it's not to employ and retain CASPs that are in their jurisdiction? And many are interpreting this law as, well, we're not going to do that. We're instead going to require our permit submittals to go get a separate inspection, which increases cost, right? And so again, these are requirements of law. I'm not an attorney, but they are still collecting funds. And it is curious to find out if the law states that the primary resource for these funds is to employ and retain CASP, which is a responsibility of the jurisdiction. It's not a responsibility of the jurisdiction to pass on to a permit submittal applicant, because then what are the funds being used for? And so I think that needs to be included on here because we get those complaints all the time. And while the civil code is directed to the jurisdiction to interpret, there is no and or provision. The only or provision is employ or retain, which means that when a jurisdiction contracts with a CASP, if they don't want to employ a CASP, they can do it under retainer. But under that retainer, because there's a contractual agreement, that CASP also has qualified immunity because through that contractual agreement with the city. So there are some legal questions here. Again, I'm not an attorney, but it's important to understand that if to the previous question that was presented by, I believe it was Mr. William Railing, is that if we are going to encourage CAS to be certified, that cities are a big part of that with these funds to encourage the increase in CAS and to have those resources within the jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you for that information. Yeah, that's something we can definitely add. We'll draft that in there. Appreciate you.
I'd like to anecdotally follow up on that, Commissioner Clare, that in the instance of a property that we sold in Berkeley, we as the seller were required to present a CASP report on the condition of the property, and the buyer conducted its own CASP report. And in several instances, the two CASP inspectors did not agree. There is some subjectivity to this. If the community, the city, the municipality is not hiring a CASP, then it begs the question of one's right of appeal. Is it correct or not? It seems to me inadequate that a municipality would pass that obligation on to private industry when in fact it's a public responsibility. And we would like to think that design standards are unambiguous, but in my personal feet on the ground circumstances, we had two qualified CASPs with three different opinions.
If I may address that, thank you. So that's just it, is that CASPs render opinions based on the standards which are interpreted by the site, but they have no enforcement authority. And so while there are legal requirements that through a sale, right, that a CASP inspection should be provided, right, you're going to have those conflicting requirements. That's why the role of the enforcement entity is so important, because the standards are interpretive, and that's why we do have, compliance issues. But that's why we need to increase the client has the protections through the enforcement entity of having an enforcement mechanism, because outside of that, legally, CAS can only provide opinions.
Correct.
And so we train them as best we can, but site conditions and everything, it's still based on interpretation of the standards, as Michael knows. So yeah, and that's why that key is important, right?
Thank you. Are there other comments or questions from the commission, whether here in the room or out there somewhere? Hearing none, are there any comments or questions from the public on this? Okay, then we will move on to the next item on the agenda.
Sorry, I have my hand raised. But
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go.
I apologize. I did figure out how to raise the hand, but I guess it wasn't noticed. Thank you. This is William Railing, Accessible San Francisco. Just following up on the state architect Ida Claire's comments. And I would just like to add to the problem that she identified that while there is a provision within CRASCA providing that a CAS report, if submitted or not necessarily the report itself to the jurisdiction, that the jurisdiction must provide a quote unquote expedited review on that project.
I can't take it off take her off camera to avoid it.
That expedited review in no way lessens the local jurisdiction's statutory requirement to enforce state accessibility law. So it's an additional concern on what the state architect just said, that if a jurisdiction is saying that you have to hire a private CASP to certify your project, we would also be concerned whether the jurisdiction is actually properly fulfilling its the requirement of itself enforcing accessibility code. Thank you.
May I address thank you, William, if I may call you by your first name. I did want to clarify that the jurisdiction should not be asking for the report. The law actually states that they have a signed statement from a CAS that the plans have been reviewed. So, and the Disability Access Inspection Certificate, which is provided as a result of a review, can be provided. That's a public notice. The CAS report has statutorily mandated confidentiality. And if it is submitted to a local jurisdiction, it's subject to a Public Records Act, which puts the facility owner in jeopardy because it's basically a laundry list of violations. And so we don't collect CAS reports at DSA. Whenever we do audits, we do it remotely, where the CAS puts the report on the screen and we review that way, so that we don't have possession of CAS reports because of that statutorily mandated confidentiality. So if a jurisdiction's asking for the report, they are misreading the law and they shouldn't be doing that, but they can get the Disability Access Inspection Certificate and a signed statement by the CAS that they have reviewed the plans. So I just wanted to clarify that for everyone. And that's probably good information for this as well, maybe. Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheelie, any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, then we will move on to the next item, which is the interim executive director report. Mr. Paravagna.
Yeah, Commissioner Paravagna here. I'll be brief, which is unusual for some of us in this meeting. Sorry. I want to, first of all, and most importantly, talk about what I've learned about this commission in my time as interim executive director. I've been able to obtain a vision of how things function that probably few commissioners have an opportunity to obtain. And I am just so pleased to report to you that the quality of Phil's work and the staff's work is amazing. We've got people doing an absolutely wonderful job. And they're doing it in some cases kind of by the seat of their pants because they're, it's still, even though we've been around for 10 or 15 years, whatever, we're still kind of new and our process is still evolving. And it's just important for the members of this commission to know the asset that we have within the people that are working with us and that are part of the team. That said, some of the activities we've been involved in is looking at the reality that there will be a new executive director one of these days soon. And we have been looking at what needs to occur from the commission side, the office side, the operations side, to assist that individual in getting up to speed as quickly as possible and letting them know kind of the context with which many things occur and the challenges that we have, the ideas for moving forward so that this person can hit the ground moving as quickly as possible. And again, this is an area where staff have been really instrumental. Phil and I met with folks last week. Yes, it all runs together. And begin to look at different things that we need to do to orient that person in their onboarding experience. I also want to talk a little bit on another item about problems that we see or problems that we're experiencing. And I think the whole of state government in California has a problem right now with having a real pristine accounting for the budget. And as commissioners, we sit at each meeting expecting staff to give us an accurate accounting. And there's a system called FitzU that is being used by Department of General Services, among others, and it's ubiquitous throughout the state. And it's not functioning as well as we would like. So as commissioners, when we look at our financial situation, such as items 10 and 11 of this budget or this agenda, we need to know that that's the best information available, and it might not be as accurate as we'd like, but staff has done the best possible job in clarifying it. And toward that end, Phil and I have had discussions with General Services about, ways in which that could be improved so we know kind of where we're at. And I just really wanted people to know that. And with that, I will close my report. Any questions?
Commissioner Wheelie of the commission, does anybody have a question or comment for Commissioner Paravagna? Yes,
I have
Mr. McFall.
I just wanted to thank Commissioner Paravagna because he's been instrumental in what we've done. He's been the guiding force, and his leadership has really, he's taught me a lot over the last, 3 or 4 months, and he's been, available whenever we need him to be there. And it's been I want to say it's been our pleasure for you to be our interim executive director. And like I said, I've learned a ton from you in the last 4 months, and I really appreciate your help and guidance.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner Wheelie, I will second that. I've learned a lot from you also, Michael, in my decade. I came into this clueless, except that I knew what the business community was about. And I'm very grateful for you, and especially for what you have done over the last months.
Oh, thank you. I want to be clear that I haven't done that much over the last months. That Phil and the staff have really done the heavy lifting. So, but thank you.
Other comments from commission?
This is Commissioner Alhassan. I also want to thank everyone at my staff and Commissioner Paravagna for his support as we were moving forward. I wanted to ask about the onboarding process. How involved or input are you open to receiving from commissioners?
If you have issues that you feel we should bring to the attention of the incoming executive director, please let us know. What we've done is gone through sort of the nuts and bolts functionings of the operations and looked at the operations, the context, the history, issues that are policy issues that are pending. Examples might be exercising our authority to do fundraising. Issues have to do with working with personnel and budgets to structure things better for staff without surrendering any of our positions. Those are the kinds of things that we're working with, but whatever input you have, or you or anyone else is welcome.
Oh, I was just really more in line, not so much of issues, but familiarity and understanding of commissioners' roles, each individual personality of the commissioner, not so much personality, but what they bring to the commission, things like that, just to kind of like broaden the scope of understanding and really getting a good feel about how the commission works, not only as a whole and from an operational and functional standpoint, but also in understanding each commissioner's role.
Yeah, I think that
Just my thoughts.
each commissioner is a very unique individual, and the new executive director is going to have to take time to get to know each person and how the team gels and who can be relied upon for what. We have the good fortune of having a commission with a wide variety of skills and abilities, and the ED needs to know who can be contacted when certain things need to happen. I hope that addresses your issue.
It's just an issue. It's just basically input of what I got by the onboarding process. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Wheelie. Any other questions or comments from the commission? If none, then let's open the questions and comments from the public. Is there anyone in the public who would like to offer a comment or ask a question of the interim executive director's report? Okay, hearing none there, then I will close this agenda item and we will adjourn for lunch. It is 11:56 as I can see, and I think we will be back here. Phil, should we say 1 o'clock? We will re-adjourn at 1 o'clock. Thank you all.
Okay, you're good. Hi, everyone. This is Presley Strother talking. I will do roll call again. Welcome back from lunch, everyone. To start out with, I will start with Commissioner Guy Lemus. Are you here right now? All right. To the next person, I have Commissioner Doug Wheelie.
Present.
Awesome. And then Commissioner Drake Dillard. Okay. And then Commissioner Dr. Sue L. Hessen. I did hear that you are back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And then Commissioner Brian Holloway.
Present.
Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson.
Present.
Commissioner Ashley Leon Vasquez.
Present.
Commissioner Michael Paravagna.
Present.
And then Commissioner Hector Ramirez.
Thank you, present.
Awesome. And then we have Commissioner Ida Claire.
Present.
Awesome. And then if there is any other commissioners, senators, or significant members that have been added to the meeting, please feel free to identify yourselves.
This is Anthony Safarian, also present for Attorney General Bonta.
Thank you, Commissioner Safarian.
This is Emily Miller on the behalf of Senator Brian Jones.
Thank you.
And this is Sarah Harris. I'm the Director of Programs at Resources for Independent Central Valley, and I'm excited to be presenting to all of you today with Shannon later in the meeting.
Awesome. Hello, Sarah. Thank you.
This is Shannon Mulhall joining in along with Sarah. And again, also excited to be presenting later this afternoon. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We look forward to Shannon and Sarah's presentation coming up. I will pass it back to Commissioner Wheelie to identify any members of the public.
Are there any members of the public who wish to identify themselves as being with us virtually? I'm hearing none. Thank you. And with that, then, this commission hearing is back in session again, and we will start with agenda item 10, revenue reporting, and a presentation by Operations Manager Phil McFall.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheelie. This is Operations Manager Phil McFall. I wanted to review the fiscal year 2021-2022 year-end budget highlights. As Commissioner Paravania noted earlier, these are not solid numbers. They are in progress. We are still waiting for confirmation or a finalization of these numbers. So these are going to be pretty much through the end of April 2021. So I'm sorry, April 2022. So let me just give you a quick breakdown. So as far as our authorized positions, we have 5 authorized positions here at CCDA. Personnel wages, that's our personnel services and wages, staff benefits. We have $743,000. I completely jumped to the next item. My apologies. Let me go to our potential uses of funds. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead in the schedule, so that's my apology. I was not paying attention. The potential uses of funds. So we wanted to talk about our the $99,000 plus the $20,000 that we have. So we have approximately $120,000 that we have available to us from our high frequency litigant fund that we need to discuss. So over the past couple of meetings, we have thought of a few things. We've talked about PSAs, which seems to be the most popular of the three, using that money to begin or to produce PSA or PSAs. Also, we've talked about developing educational resources, so using it for the Disability and Access and Education Revolving Fund, QRG, and some of the activities around that. Also, creating some handouts around AB 2917, so top 10 violations handout and outreach for attorney compliance. So there's been, like I said, we've had a discussion. There hasn't really been any sort of determination of what we want to use these for. Just a reminder that these sunset at the end of, and so in December of 2024, we need to have exhausted those funds. So we need to really start to think about what we would like to do, because that will be here sooner than later. We have, it seemed like the most popular idea was the PSAs. That's the one that got the most activity. We had talked a little bit about developing an app, but then after research realized that would require way more than $120,000. So, I'd like to reach out and see if there's any thoughts on these ideas, what we can possibly do, or if there's anything additional that we'd like to add.
Commissioner Wheelie, commissioners, do we have input for staff on this?
This is Commissioner O'Hesson.
Symposium.
Symposium.
I'm sorry. Is it okay if I speak?
Go right ahead.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I wanted to, based on my role on the Education Outreach Committee, I really support the PSAs and getting more information out there to the public as well to our business community. And as soon as we can move forward with that, I think our committee would like to start identifying topics and suggestions for how to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other suggestions, comments?
Yeah, as Commissioner Paravani, I have a comment. I would, well, there's a couple things. One is one of the items that's also been kicked around is the notion of having more of the listening sessions like we did 3 or 4 years ago. For those of you new to the commission, we would select a topic that is pertinent to both the business and disability community. We would invite diverse stakeholders who are not expected to agree on a solution for the subject. And we would have a panel provide information on the subject, and then a facilitator facilitate the rest of the meeting to see whether there are common areas of interest. This is something that could be tied to involvement, hopefully, with members of the legislature's office, so that if the meetings resulted in fruitful thought for legislative proposals, they could take it from there. I would like to see that added on the list. And the second thing I'd like to say about this is that I would strongly urge that the commission make a decision about what it wants to do before the next full commission meeting, so that we don't run out of time. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheelie, again, any further comments from commission?
Commissioner Wheelie, this is Ida Claire. Thank you. So Phil, when we're talking about PSAs, is that in what method? Radio, television, billboards, what, all of the above? All the above.
Yes,
So if that is one of the avenues that's considered, I recommend getting kind of pricing on that, just so we have an idea if that is something. You had said that that's the most popular, and trying to get an idea of how to advance that to see if it's even realistic within the budgetary requirements. I'm not sure what these kind of ads cost.
Right.
If it's not, then we can obviously explore other options. So that would be, you know, kind of having like an idea of what the budget can accommodate. The other element I was going to say is items like our outreach to jurisdictional entities. I know that often we create information and there's always this debate, do you print and leave, or do you put it on the website and have them download? And somehow both of those get a little bit, you know, there's pros and cons to each of them. But I also don't know if there is, with anything that we produce, toolkits, whatever, using those funds as well to determine the best way to get those resources out. So that's another consideration.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Claire. And just in response, that is something we've talked extensively about, how the best way to distribute this information, and you know, creating a toolkit and sending it out that may possibly change, and they actually change pretty frequently. Is that the most you know, beneficial use of funds? And that's something we absolutely have taken into consideration. For your point on the PSAs, how to do them, I know that we've worked with DGS in the past, General Services, to make sure that they have an actual media team that they film and do that stuff. And in fact, I think they helped out with the Rexheim video as well. So we do have that resource. And I will come up with some pricing to make sure it looks like it's affordable and something that we can do. The radio, we've done some interviews, and there are some radio stations around town that would be willing to take on. It just really depends on what type of, you know, if we want this to play at 3 a.m., Or, if this one's, AM 530, or is this going to be on FM, so there's absolutely. So there's all types of things that go into that. So we as staff can put together a spreadsheet, some possible options. So we'll have that ready to present at our next meeting. And, to Commissioner Paravani, I know he had to your point as well, having it ready for the next full commission meeting would. So at that point, we can have a series of costs. We can put together a spreadsheet of costs, to either outline that so we can have that for discussion. And then I don't know if that would be beneficial, or do we want to have we're going to do PSAs, we're going to do $120,000 worth of PSAs. And so I don't know what level, so what we'll do, sorry, I just answered my own question. I will put together a spreadsheet and we'll have all that information, the cost of all that stuff, and have it ready for the next full commission meeting.
Commissioner Hesson, I don't see a reason why we couldn't do a combination of different things. I think Commissioner Parviana had a really good suggestion. We can do that in combination of a PSA. We can also do what Angela had did before with the biz. I forgot what it was called, but actually it was doing like a webinar on information related to our educating the business community, whether it's in what we're doing outside dining at the time and the parking, but also as legislation comes up, for example, on 508, that's another thing that we might want to look at in educating our business as well as our disability community. I just think it shouldn't be either or. I think we can have various different outlets for information to the public.
And this is Commissioner Wheelie. Commissioner El Hassan, I concur with you. It's not either or. I think these are all interesting ideas. I think our public service announcements were effective. I think evidenced by the number of people that have crowded the room here today. It's important that we get out. They don't come to us. I think Mr. Paravania's ideas about hosting events and discussions in the public and go to them is a part of our duty. And I think we should be evaluating that also.
Okay.
I'm a bigger fan of that than I am of moving our commission hearings around the state.
Okay.
I think have merit, but I think better that we go to them than we expect them to come to us. It's our duty to go to them.
Okay.
And then the last thing is one that I just don't understand yet, but I'm learning. I have this really interesting real estate project in Reno, and I have 3,500 Instagram followers, and I don't know what that's about. and I'm told that's not bad, but I don't know why anybody wants to follow me. But I am learning, and I am learning that is a particularly potent medium for communication. And I don't think we have an Instagram presence, and I think we should be exploring that and Twitter and the rest. That the world is moving beyond us. We should play catch up.
Right. 1,000%.
You guys probably know a lot more about this than I do.
I'd like to add, Commissioner Wheelie, that Instagram and Twitter, and they're all free too. So we can do that obviously in addition to everything, that with the resources, maybe amplify what we can provide. But yeah, I think it's also important to really engage and leverage the funds that we have in our outreach with chambers of commerce and ask what they can bring to the table. We're bringing information. They may be able, encouraging people to attend is key, and us doing our own outreach. I think we need the local impetus to continuously encourage that as well. And I think that also helps with local legislative leaders and members as well, like try to flood it from all ends to get people to come.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will have information on the listening sessions. I think that's an outstanding idea as well. The Instagram and Twitter, we have invested. I'm sorry, this is Phil McFall, Operations Manager, Phil McFall. And yes, we have absolutely looked into that. It's something that we are, and we can talk about this, I guess, another time, but we are kind of limited on what we can do. We've absolutely tried to do that, but it looks like it's something that the General Services has more of a say so in this than what we have. But we can talk about that, I guess, another time. I agree, and I would absolutely love to do that. anyway, I don't want to go down that path, but we,
This is Commissioner Wheelie. I may not think that I'm cool, but I do think that what we do here is cool.
yes,
It's important and it is attractive and compelling to our culture.
yes,
And I think we need to be more visible.
agreed. Agreed. So that's all I have for item 10.
Commissioner Wheelie, we do have a hand raised from Commissioner Ramirez.
You're on.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. This is Hector Ramirez. Yeah, I really like the conversations for this capacity projects. It's a very small amount of money. And so I was wondering for staff, if perhaps this particular funding could be utilized in some way to strengthen or support internally the work that you're doing. I don't know if there's any particular types of needs or areas that could be perhaps enhanced with this amount of money. I do like the conversations around engagement and outreach. But then I also do realize Twitter and Instagram are free. I have a couple of accounts, and I know that oftentimes, even though the services are free, being able to have the content created properly is one of the biggest limitations on, that the state does put to ensure that both the content is accessible, but it's also, it has good outcomes. But I think it's very important, particularly with the work that you do. The business sector has changed dramatically this past 2 years. And a lot of folks are in a way wondering still how operationalization of policies like the ones that are enforced or talked about in this body have changed, or if they've changed. So I know that there is a significant amount of need for that type of refreshment or reintroduction of vital information and services. But around the conversation of in-person stakeholder, that's still varying degree depending on localities, situations, and culture. But given the fact that it's a very small amount of money, I also wanted to hear from staff if perhaps that money could be, I don't know what the limitations or restrictions are, but could be used internally to strengthen capacity abilities.
Thank you for that. This is Operations Manager Phil McFall. Can you, I know you, I think I understand your question, but you said to strengthen our internal, are you talking about just internal needs that we have here with staff?
Yeah, this is Hector. For example, anything in particular, if you, a particular analyst position or strengthening of a project. I have heard conversations with the education software, which I think is very important to also uplift the work that they're doing. And so they similar types of things that your group, that this particular body might need internally to be able to continue doing the work that they're doing. Anything that your office might need that could be enhanced.
Okay, thank you. This is Operations Manager Phil McFall. Thank you for that. And there are, there are some things that I've talked about and discussed, especially with Commissioner Paravagna. And he alluded to a little bit earlier. We're trying to understand exactly what we have for our budget above and beyond that $120,000 or separate from that $120,000. So I wanted, I don't even know how to put this, but and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this money was kind of earmarked for us to be able to do those activities, like more of the outreach and more of the getting our message out to the communities, and our internal needs should be met by our budget, that we have within, that I'm going to go over here in a few minutes that I started to go over with. That should be met by those needs. So, but if there's, maybe we can have this, continue this discussion offline, but I'd like to hear your ideas. I like the ideas that you have, and I'd be more than happy to discuss maybe some additional. Well, yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm just kind of going through it in my head, and I do that out loud sometimes. I appreciate your and we will take that those comments and consider some of the. But to answer your question, I think that the stuff that you're discussing may be more handled with the budget that we have through DGS. I mean, our CCDA budget, as opposed to this high frequency litigant fund.
This is Hector. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, thanks.
Any other comments, public or otherwise, on this item? Otherwise, we'll close it and move on. Okay, hearing none, agenda item 10 is closed. We will open agenda item 11, financial review. Again, a report from Operations Manager Phil McFall.
Thank you. This is Operations Manager Phil McFall. I am here to finally discuss the Expenditure Authority, or CCDA budget fiscal year 2021-2022. Again, this is going to be through April timeframe. It is it's not a solid number that I'm giving you, so please keep that in mind when I give that to you. Our authorized positions this year were 5. And I'll just highlight the total authorized budget, which is $1.561 million for the 2021-2022 budget year. That our budget expenditures, and that date is wrong. It shouldn't say July 1st, 2020. It should be April of 2021 with an asterisk, but the number is right at $743,000. Our reported expenditures is through that same time period to be $541,881. So we're projected to close at 73% of our personal services budget. But keep in mind that number is not necessarily a solid number, but from what we can understand at this point, we're going to finish at about 73% of our personal services budget for the year. Operating expenses is going to be the next thing that we're going to talk about. The final thing we're going to talk about, and our authorized expenditures is $818,000, and our reported expenditures is $302,388. So we're going to come in well under 50% of that goal for the year. So again, these are numbers. These are rough numbers. These are not anything finalized that we were able to come up with. So based on what I can tell from through the April of 2022, we're looking at about $302,388 of our reported expenditures for the year. So again, we're well under that. We're even under 50% of hitting goal this year. And I'll turn it back to Commissioner Wheelie.
Commissioner Wheelie, that concludes your report?
Yes.
We have questions for Mr. McFall.
Commissioner Wheelie, I do not see any hands raised from the commissioners or any commentary in the chat from the commissioners.
And how about from the public? Are there questions from the public or comments from the public on this agenda item?
Commissioner Wheelie, I do not see indication in the chat from the public, as well as any hands raised from members of the public that would like to speak on this issue.
Okay, so this is Commissioner Wheelie. On the basis of that, we will close agenda item 11. Thank you, and move to agenda item 12, Disability Awareness and Etiquette. Presley, I believe you have some introductions to make.
Hi, yes, I would like to introduce our 2 presenters today. First, we have Sarah Harris. She's a program manager at Resources for Independent Central Valley. So Sarah Harris, Director of Programs at Resources for Independent Central Valley, enjoys making good stuff happen. She oversees advocacy, assisted technology, youth services, and community education. She serves on local and state committees advising and advocating for voting rights, transportation, services for the blind, and more. She currently serves as the first vice president for the California Council of the Blind. Most recently, Sarah coordinated CCB's 2021 and 2022 virtual conventions. In her spare time, she enjoys a good cup of coffee, an endurance adventure with the Project Athena Foundation, a good laugh, and spending time with Honey, her perfect Chihuahua pit bull. So that will be our first presenter, Sarah, and I will then introduce our second presenter, Shannon M. Mulhall. Shannon M. Mulhall, NIC ADAC CAS, served for a decade as the Americans with Disabilities Act coordinator for the city of Fresno, before transitioning to her current role overseeing the city's organizational development and training program. She graduated from California State University, Fresno with a Bachelor of Arts in communicative disorders and deaf studies with an emphasis in interpreting and completing her ADA coordinator certification through the University of Missouri. Mulhall is a certified sign language interpreter and certified access specialist. She approaches all aspects of accessibility with an encouraging educational focus and an emphasis on the positive role everyone can play in providing equal opportunities to all members of the public. Mulhall has a wide range of experience presenting in person and online for entities including, but not limited to, the ADA National Network, National ADA Synopsis, CSUN's National Center on Deafness, CSUN's Assistive Technology Conference, the California Council of the Blind, the Citizen Corp Certificate, Safe and Ready Institute, International Public Safety Association, Central California Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, Resources for Independent Central Valley, Certified Access Special Institute, California Network of ADA Coordinators, and LA Basin Chapter International Code Council. She develops and conducts staff trainings on a recurring basis, partners with local community organizations serving individuals with disabilities to provide community education seminars, and is regularly requested to guest lecturers in courses at local colleges and universities on topics related to ADA and inclusion. Mulhall actively serves the community in a variety of ways, including participation on the Health Net Statewide Public Policy Committee, State Center Community College District Disabled Student Services Advisory Council, Citizen Corps Council, and Special Programs Chair for Certified Access Specialist Institute. She previously served as chair of the Earthquake County Alliance Seniors and People with Disabilities Committee, as the publication chair and emergency preparedness chair on the Central California Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, co-facilitator of the Joint Access and Functional Needs Work Group, and a participant in the Fresno County Voter Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Fresno County Food Policy Council Transportation, Land Use, and Government Regulation Work Group. She is keenly interested in exploring ways to expand community outreach, website technology, accessibility, whole community preparedness, and effective communication. So with those, I will pass it over to Sarah and Shannon. I will just put up their PowerPoint real quick, and then we will be good to go.
My goodness, thank you, Presley. All I hear is Shannon doesn't say no.
I was going to say, gosh, we are lazy people.
Staying busy.
That's right. Well, I want to start off by saying thank you, Commission, for welcoming us here today. It's always a joy to partner with the California Commission on Disability Access on ways to enhance accessibility throughout the entire state. So we are really pleased to be here today. We can go to the next slide. Sarah, this is where we introduce ourselves, but if you want to go ahead and add anything more, you can.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Sarah, as everybody said, and I am, of course, I'm a person who's blind. You know, I'm on all these blind things, right? But also, I am very, very proud to say that I am almost a certified ADA coordinator. I am taking my test this week, and I think I'm gonna do good. So, yay! Go for it, Shannon.
Next slide, please. Well, gosh, I feel like Presley already covered all the details, and we now know that Shannon doesn't say no, and she loves alphabet soup. So I am very glad to be here and working with all of you. I do want to acknowledge the fact that I am a working mom of neurodivergent children who are home on summer break. So if there's noise in the background, I apologize in advance. All right, let's move to the next slide. What are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about disability discrimination, but we're going to really hone in on the attitudinal barriers related to disability discrimination. We're going to talk about how we interact in a way that's respectful of people with disabilities, how we talk about disability, how we write about disability, because we are in this capacity where we're doing a lot of written communication and government communication. And we're going to spend some time talking about what to do when you mess up. How do you recover when you mess up? Next slide, please. So pictured on the screen are a variety of images of people with disabilities, and in the center is the text, people first. We have to start with people. anytime that we're talking about disability, whether we're talking about regulations, we're talking about lawsuits, we're talking about any kind of area of disability work, we have to remember that people come first. They're at the heart of the work that we're doing. You know, with the Americans with Disabilities Act, with certified access specialists, we often forget about the human aspect. We get so stuck into looking at the built environment. We get stuck in thinking about how we're going to reduce lawsuits. But at the end of the day, it's about making sure that people have equal access to participate in the full stream of life. Next slide. I love this quote. Let's see if it comes up here, from Lex Frieden. Disability and aging extend across race, ethnicity, level of education, and socioeconomic status. All of us have experienced the effects of disability or the aging process. Oh, I love that quote. All of us experience the effects of disability or the aging process. When we think about disability really in the micro, we all know somebody who has some sort of disability, whether it's a person who has raised us, a person we're raising, a friend, a colleague, a loved one, that guy across the street that we can't stand. We know people with disabilities because 1 in 5 people have some sort of disability in our community. Sarah, do you want to add anything on here?
I definitely do. You know, one of the great advocates that we had here in Fresno, he used to say every time we had a meeting, like you may be here representing an organization, that serves people with disabilities, but there's always a chance that you just don't have a disability yet. And I found that very thoughtful and very insightful, because it's true. We all experience things as we get older.
I remember Bob saying, Shannon, you're just a tab, TAB, temporarily able-bodied. And he was right. Sarah and I have had many talks about, how life changes over time, and some things where I'm starting to lean a little more towards, do I associate and start really coming out about being a person with a disability or not? And it's a really interesting thing coming from an aging perspective, right? Let's go to slide 7. All right, so disability discrimination, right? Disability discrimination comes in a variety of forms. On the screen, we've listed out several. Outright and intentional exclusion. That's kind of hate to say it bluntly, the jerk. We don't want them around here, putting big quotes around them. Isolation or segregation, we've seen that in many of our schools, in our housing, in other aspects of life. The big one that we look at as certified access specialist is the architectural barriers, but also we have transportation and communication barriers. Disability discrimination can look like exclusionary qualification or standards, or even overprotective rules and policies. We want to keep them safe, those folks with disabilities safe, which actually becomes, a discrimination. And one of the biggest areas of disability discrimination, what we're going to talk about today, is that attitudinal barriers or ableism. So we want to talk about those attitudinal barriers and the ways that each of us can make small shifts in our own behaviors to address our internal biases and improve the outcomes for folks with disabilities. Next slide, independent living movement. Sarah, you want to talk about the independent living movement?
Sure. And I just want to start by acknowledging that yesterday was the 32nd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it took a long time to get there. And we're still not totally there yet, let's be honest. So the independent living movement really started in Berkeley with Ed Roberts, who they like to call him the father of the independent living movement, father of Center for Independent Living. And he was a gentleman who at the age of 15 ended up contracting polio. He was told that he would die. His mom, was told, well, you should just hope that he dies because he'll never be able to do anything. Like, who wants to hear that, right? And so he became his very own advocate at a very young age when he was taking class in high school over the phone. And, this was like in the 50s and 60s. I don't know if you can imagine trying to be on a rotary phone taking a class. And he was told, well, you won't really graduate high school because you can't take PE or you can't take driver's ed. Well, he said, oh, but I'm doing everything else. And I can't do that because of my disability, not because I don't want to, because I would love to drive and I would, love to, be able to take PE because he was a baseball player. And so guess what? He advocated and he was able to graduate high school. He then moved on to going to community college. And then he decided he wanted to go to Berkeley. And he went to his Department of Rehabilitation counselor and he said, hey, I want to go to Berkeley. And they said, no, you're too disabled, because he was a person who was quadriplegic. He needed to have a lot of care, and he also, needed some different supports, because he also slept in an iron lung so that he was able to breathe well. Well, he fought and he fought, and he ended up getting a spot there at Berkeley, where he put together a group called the Rolling Quads. And the rest is history. They got together and started the very first disabled students program, which is called lots of things, lots of different places, and then started, Centers for Independent Living, which now there's over 400 in the United States, 28 here in California, and there's some internationally as well. And so it really sparked a lot of motivation to really get the word out.
And pictured on the screen is an image from the Disability Civil Rights Movement, a group of folks with disabilities. Front and center, I can see Judy Human. If you get a chance, read her book. It's fantastic. It's called Being Human. But there's a sign that says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. On the slide, it says Independent Living Movement. And the Independent Living Movement includes advocacy, inclusion, autonomy, independence, equity. Sarah, do you want to drill down into any additional items on this slide?
No, I think we're good.
Good. Next slide, please. So thanks to these fantastic warriors, folks like Ed Roberts, the Rolling Quads, the folks that were really involved in the Section 504 sit-in, we started to see a growth of disability rights laws in our community. And this is not an extensive list, but I wanted to put it out there so that we're aware it's not just the Americans with Disabilities Act that provides protections for people with disabilities in our community. We have a plethora of disability rights laws that provide those supports, provide guidance for those of us that are ensuring disability rights are met, and really create a playbook, so to speak, about how to ensure that these civil rights are met. Hyperlinked on this slide will take you to a description of each and every one of these disability rights laws. And we're not going to go into every law, but I want to show that context, that there are so many disability rights laws on the book, and yet one of the largest battlegrounds are the attitudinal barriers. Because next slide. Next slide. Disability rights are civil rights. I'm going to say that again. Disability rights are civil rights. So when we're talking about thresholds and doorways and ramps, we're not really talking about the built environment. We're talking about equal access. We're talking about making sure that people have equal opportunity to thrive and survive and to live wholehearted lives in our community. Sarah, you want to riff on civil rights?
Oh, yes. Okay. So, when we think about civil rights, we all have the right to employment. We all have the right to go to the gym. We all have the right to, be a part of our kids' school. But I will tell you, as a person with a disability, I haven't always been able to do those things very easily. I'm not, and a lot of times we think of barriers, we think of people who use wheelchairs. Oh, it's barriers in so many more ways than that. And a lot of it is, like Shannon said, it's attitudes, right? Like, people don't understand what the possibilities are when it comes to people with disabilities. Are a lot of the things opening up now that we have the opportunity for a remote work environment? Absolutely, but it's not the answer. People should have the same equal access to be able to do anything and everything in the same way. Well, I guess in a different way, but be able to do everything together. When we think about, going to a sports game and you're going with your family, and maybe you're a person who uses a wheelchair, And you can't sit with your family because there's not a place for you to sit with them. I mean, how unfair is that? Do you really want to be like 400 feet away? You know, or even access, you know, because maybe there's only stairs. There could be so many different things. And when it comes down to it, you know, we really have to look at how can we put everybody in a spot to where they can look over the fence together. I think that's a really, really important one to think about.
Mrs. Shannon, yeah, we have to reframe how we think about people's capacities, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Let's go to the next slide. I've got a couple quotes here that I really like talking about attitudinal barriers. And this one's from Sarah Hendren. She says, how we define, think about, and treat those who currently have marked disability is how we ourselves may well be perceived if and when we become less able than we are now by age, degeneration, or some sudden change in our physical or mental capacities. Or to put it more succinctly, next slide, the great Ed Roberts, of course, can always pull it up. He says, disability is just a part of life. Anyone can join our group at any point in life. You think about that. Disability is the only marginalized group that people are generally not born into, that people can join at an instant. You know, for those that can't see, I am a white woman. I'm never going to suddenly become a Black woman. It's just not who I am. But like a snap of a finger, I can become a person with a disability. And thinking about how I interact with people with disabilities now in a way that is going to be how I want to be interacted with in the future. Sarah, anything to add on that?
Yeah, and just to add, you know, one of the big things that has been going on and being talked about is, of course, diversity, inclusion, equity. We keep hearing all of those words, right? Well, I heard a quote just 2 days ago that really, really got me. It's like disability is the little d in diversity, because people forget about that. They're looking at, you know, what we all look like on the outside and not thinking about what we may have going on the inside, or some of our limitations that do make us diverse. You know, so many times I have an opportunity to show people how I see the world, which of course is a lot different because I can't physically see, right? So I love that. The little d in diversity is disability.
Hey, Sarah, did you know that I was looking at the White House proclamation regarding disability, equity, inclusion, and access? They actually say and access. So those of us that are looking for DEI trainers, I'm going to encourage you to look for DEIA trainers. So we don't have to have the little d, because accessibility is huge. Disability is part of our life. So that's one quick shift we can do right now. It's super easy. DEIA.
And thank you for remembering the A, because I couldn't remember what the A was. I was like, it's something good, but I didn't want to say it. So thank you.
I got you. Next slide, please. All right. So there is a term. We're not going to talk extensively, I think, about, well, no, we are. We're talking about ableism, and it's uncomfortable when we talk about isms, right? But I think this is a reality in our community. I'm going to read this great quote or great definition that comes out of one of our independent living centers in Chicago. They say that ableism is the discrimination of and social prejudice against people with disabilities based on the belief that typical abilities are superior. At its heart, ableism is rooted in the assumption that disabled people require fixing and defines people by their disability. Like racism and sexism, ableism classifies an entire group of people as less than, and includes harmful stereotypes, misconceptions, and generalizations of people with disabilities. Ooh, that's a lot to take in, isn't it? And if you're having that gut reaction of, but not me, I'm not ableist, sit with that for a second, because we all have that knee-jerk reaction at first, but maybe we're going to identify and uncover some ways that we could be changing how we work and what we do to be a little less ableistic, right? A little less focused on ableism. Anything that you want to drive on that before we move on, Sarah?
Yeah, you know, one thing to really think about when we think about being ableist, you know, don't make assumptions, because you guys all know what'll happen if you assume, right? And we don't want to make assumptions of what somebody can't do just based upon, you know, looking at them or knowing what their disability is, because you never know the things that people are able to do. So don't ever make those assumptions. That's where you start. Like, don't assume that I don't want to go to the movies because I can't see. Right?
Thank you, Sarah. Next slide. So we want to give you a different framework as you're thinking about disability, as you're working with people with disabilities, to try to think in terms of a capacities lens versus a deficits lens. So many of us are trained in this deficits lens where we focused on what's wrong, the issues. And that really comes out of that medical model of disability that focuses on how we fix people. This is someone with a quote unquote impairment that needs to be fixed to be quote unquote normal, right? So why don't we throw that language out? Why don't we stop looking at disability in terms of what people can't do and instead try to shift to a capacities lens? When we look with a capacities lens, we look at what are people capable of? What can they do? Where's their strengths and their abilities, their unique skills? What kind of interest does this person have that they bring to bear in this situation, or their perspectives? Are there growth opportunities? And can we just start from that basis of presumed competence, right? So one of the first things that we need to do is really examine our own biases. How are we viewing people with disabilities? As those poor folks who need some help, or as people who come with a rich variety of capacities that just need opportunities or barriers to be removed? And that's really shifting again out of the medical model where you focus on the can't and turning to a more social model of opportunity and strengths, because it turns out that people are more than their disability. I do want to do a quick acknowledgement. This concept actually comes out of education, and I did include the hyperlink in the notes. There a couple of researchers, Emily Nussbaum and Julie Meyer, really use this framework for talking about education in education plans. So I linked that article in the slides if folks want to learn more about that. But this was a game changer for me when I started going, oh, how do I look at capacities rather than they can't hear? They are a visual person, right? They're a person who relies on visual input. And it does shift the way you think, okay, is this information being provided in a way that's visually stimulating, that's connected in that way? Sarah, do you want to talk about deficits and capacities?
Yeah, I can touch a little bit more on that. You know, I primarily work a lot with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and there's a lot of stigma out there that really, you know, says that, you know, they can't do this, they can't do that. I have met the most interesting and most capable and most educated people in my whole life in the job that I do, because, you know, there are people that are really good at math. I'm not good at math. They are people who are artistic and thoughtful and can put together just the most beautiful thoughts. Maybe they can't say it, but they can definitely write it. I've been in realms where, you know, you start thinking, well, oh, what is that person going to do? How are they going to give that speech? I've seen a guy, well, I haven't seen him, but I know that he was doing it because he told me, give an entire presentation by typing on a text-to-speech device with his toes. So never underestimate people, ever.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's move to the next slide. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how to talk about disability. You know, when you're interacting with someone with a disability for the first time, what kind of language do we use? On the slide, it says person first or identity first. Sarah, do you want to talk? And then I can read off some of the examples and the definitions, or do you want me to define and then you talk?
You define and then I'll talk. That'll work.
You got it. All right. So usually I say the safest place to start is person first language. And person first language really acknowledges that disability is just one aspect of identity. This is right now considered to be a neutral choice. I will make an asterisk. Language is dynamic. Language will change over time. We've seen that, and it's going to continue to be the truth. So person first language sounds like person on the autism spectrum, person with hearing loss, person who uses a wheelchair, right? Those are some examples of person first language. And usually I'll tell my staff, this is where you want to start. That person first place is the safest place. But there are many within the disability community that would rather come from a place of identity first language. So identity first language integrates disability experience, pride, and or culture in their identity. Disability experience, pride, and or culture is part of identity. So a lot of the thinking there is, you can't take that disability part out of me. That is who I am. That's part of my identity. And so that's where you'll hear folks say that I am autistic. I am deaf with a big D. Folks who are big D deaf, we'll talk about that in a little bit more, I think, but really have that rich culture with American Sign Language versus someone who has a hearing loss. So there is a distinction there. Or someone who identifies as a wheelchair user. Like, that's just what I do. I use my wheelchair, easy peasy. At the end of the day, when you're interacting directly with a person, use the language the person uses for themselves. They know best their identity, and you want to trust that. Don't try to change another person's identity. Sarah?
Yeah, no, most definitely. And this is something that, you know, I've learned from the advocate side of things too, is that we have to, you know, start on that common ground. You know, I am a person who is blind, but there's a lot of times I'll just say I'm blind, right? Because I am comfortable with that. I've met other people who, you know, maybe they are what we call a person who has high partial vision. They may not want to identify as someone who is blind because they don't consider themselves to be blind like I am. You know, and another interesting thing is some folks are okay with being labeled as special needs and others aren't. So at the end of the day, if you say people with disabilities, you're starting off in a good place, but recognize that the more that you listen to someone and hear exactly how they identify themselves, that'll help you in having that interaction with them. A lot of the younger generation is using that identifying language first. So they're using, instead of people with disabilities, they're using disabled people. And so be aware that, you know, there's a little bit of a shift, but I think it's a bit of a struggle. We're all kind of fighting, you know, for what we want. And so just be aware that there may be, you know, different people who feel differently. And that kind of goes with the human race in general, right? Because there's some folks that they may want to be identified as, you know, I am Sarah versus my name is Sarah, because I am not a Sarah. That's what my name is, right?
Thank you. Next slide. Another thing that we want to take a moment to talk about, and we are currently on slide 16, is intersectionality. This is a really cool theory. It was coined by Professor Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989, and it really describes how race, class, gender overlaps with other individual characteristics, how these intersect with one another and overlap. So the definition on the screen here, I'll read it off. Says the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender, as they apply to a given individual or group, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. And I love this graphic here. It's a Venn diagram with overlapping circles that include, each circle is labeled differently. They include sexuality, racial identity, gender, nationality, disability. Right? So simply put, we can't consider disability in a vacuum. We can't consider it on its own, but really have to understand the whole experience of the individual and who they are, how they experience this world can impact, well, how they show up in this world can impact their experience. So a white person who is blind may have a different experience than a Black individual who is blind, right? And by the nature of who they are and how they show up. And just for funsies, because I love it, here's the sign for intersectionality. Let's see if my interpreter does the same. Yeah, they got it, right? We're using the same sign here. And I love it because it's just so visual, and it's fingers kind of almost like in a Sarah, do you want me to visually describe this? How intersectionality
Yeah.
looks? Okay, it's like, imagine you've got a ball in your hand, but your fingers, you've created this ball with your fingers in your hands, but your fingers kind of slide into interlock with each other, and then you roll it around kind of in a circle.
Ah, that's
Isn't that fun?
beautiful.
Isn't it?
That's
I love it.
beautiful. And it's so true because everything is so full circle when it comes to people with disabilities, people in general, and it's not just, disability, race and class and sexuality and all that may intersect. It could also be disabilities. I am a person who is blind, who has been diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and who has Crohn's disease. So, there's a lot to it. And those are all pieces of us that, really they kind of help us to navigate our world in a sense and really make up how we live our lives.
How grand that we live in a world that is so unique with so many unique folks. And for those of us that work in disability access, that we get to work in this world, that's a gift. All right, next slide. I'll get off my soapbox about how great it is to work in this arena. Let's talk a little bit about written communication. In government entities, we do a lot of writing about disability. And so listed on the screen, I have kind of two lists. One is instead of, and the second list is use. So I don't want to tell you, don't say this without giving you an alternative. So on the instead of list, we've got handicapped and special needs. Sarah talked about that briefly. Special needs is really only used in the education realm. And even then it's a little sticky. Handicap is old regulatory language. It's no longer generally used, but there are still some folks who self-identify as having a handicap. But I know that there are folks who are really highly offended by handicap. And Sarah, you want to explain why?
Oh, absolutely. So I totally don't like the word handicapped, especially after I was at a youth conference in Berkeley, and the youth told this wonderful story about how the word handicapped came from people with disabilities, the vision of people with disabilities standing on the corner with their caps in hand, begging for money. I'm not standing on any corner begging for money with my hat out. I got my pretty hat on my head. And so I think that it just that perception that it gives is so ugly, and really remembering that, we're not playing golf, right? You have a handicap when you play golf.
Right. And so what do we use instead? We use the term disability. Disability is now the more commonly used language. We use the term accessible. I hear folks refer to handicap parking. Where's the handicap parking? Well, there's nothing wrong with the parking. The parking's accessible. It's usable, right? So the built environment, think of it not as the ADA or the handicap, whatever feature it is, but it's the accessible feature that it is, the accessible element.
Right. And Shannon, I got to share a fun thing about that. So my husband actually works in the realm of construction. He does asphalt. He can tell you all the parking lots he's done up and down California. And he and I will argue all about when he says, oh yeah, we did 8 handicap stalls. And I'll go, accessible parking, accessible parking, accessible. He goes, that's what the guy calls it, and it sticks in my head. So we even have these arguments in my house.
We all try to do better, right?
Yes.
So on our list here, instead of in our written communication, we don't necessarily want to say disabled organizations, but we did talk about that before, that's kind of an identity first. So the safer place in written communications, you want to talk about people or individuals with disabilities, agencies serving people with disabilities. On our instead of lists, things that we don't say are seniors or senior citizen. I can hear one of my local advocates, he's a local gerontology professor, who says, nope, we're older adults. We're the aging population. No longer are we seniors or senior citizens. And a note he would always say regarding senior citizen is not everyone who's old in our community is a citizen. Oh, that's right. We do have some undocumented folks in our community who still benefit from these civil rights laws. Let's keep that in mind. An interesting distinction. Next on my list is hearing impaired. We don't say hearing impaired. That's highly offensive to folks who are culturally deaf, who use American Sign Language. Hearing impaired is the medical model. That is what the doctor will diagnose people as having. And that is why we typically use that in our community. That's what the doctor's saying. If the doctor said it, it should be true. But in our community of folks who are deaf or hard of hearing, you really want to stay away from hearing impaired. There's nothing wrong. The only thing I can't do is hear, as the great I King Jordan said. And so deaf or hard of hearing, you'll see on here it says big D / lowercase d for deaf. And that's again the distinction between folks who are culturally deaf who use American Sign Language. They like to use the big D deaf, and little d deaf just means I can't hear. Ooh, it's hard for me to say it. Retarded. Don't say it. Don't write it. Don't use
just
it.
don't. Yeah.
Just
no.
Don't. Instead, we're talking about intellectual or developmental disabilities, cognitive disabilities. And the last one, Sarah, you got this one: suffers from versus lives with.
I do not suffer because I am blind. I am not suffering from blindness. I am very active in my community. I hear this in so many areas. I'm a person living, I'm living and I'm blind, and it just kind of happens to be that way. When people describe disability as somebody suffering, it can be so hurtful. I've even left group settings where, that was the continuous way that they were describing people with chronic pain or with disabilities, that they were suffering. There's a difference between suffering and living, and don't ever assume that somebody's suffering.
Yeah, what we say leads to what we think, leads to what we believe. So words matter. And these little shifts, these are really little shifts. Take this slide, post it up next to your cubicle. Anytime that you're writing about disability or accessibility, kind of take a glance. And this is going to change. I will acknowledge that now. And it is not going to be good for everybody. Some folks will say, yeah, that's not me. And when that changes, you'll change with it. Next slide. Sarah, this is our slide about visual and graphic representation. On here, I've got 3 different links to resources for a variety of visual images of individuals with disabilities, not just white people, but also a variety of people with a variety of disabilities. But Sarah, I'll let you talk about how critical the representation is in our media.
Oh, it's so critical because there's a number of things that you want to make sure that you do. You want to make sure that you are representing, number one, the community that you live in or you work in. And so say that you are in an organization where the neighborhood and the people that you serve are typically people who are Black or Mexican, with some white folks, sprinkled in. You want to make sure that when you put pictures out, that's what the folks look like. If you serve many different disabilities, you want to have, pictures of people with disabilities. And also it's important to have the people that you serve in those pictures. When you can't do that, it's okay to get stock pictures, but if you can, you really need to think about making sure that, you pull a bunch of people together. Let's have a photo shoot, or when you have activities happening that you take a picture of the group of folks that are there participating, because photos speak 1,000 words. Even though I can't see them, there's typically descriptions of them. And I want to know if the people in that picture look like me and represent me, and that I will be welcome in that space. It's so very important.
Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about interactions, some simple things that we can do. Sarah, I'm going to read through the slide and we can riff on them as well. Pictured on the screen is a group of, I actually pulled this from our stock photo list, but a group of folks with different disabilities. So when we're interacting with folks with disabilities across the board, remember, work directly with the person. This happens a lot with our deaf and hard of hearing community, in which somebody will talk directly to the sign language interpreter. Can you tell him? Can you tell that? Tell him this, tell him that. When he gets back, let him know that I said whatever it is. No, you're working with that person directly. Now, we've seen that this also happens with a variety of disabilities as well, though, not just folks working with interpreters. Within the community that Sarah works with, if somebody has a service aide with them or a companion with them, and they will often get ignored, right? And so being mindful of that. I've gone out to dinner with a friend who's in a wheelchair, and the waitress asked me, what does she want? And I was like, I don't know. She's got to order for herself. She has a voice and the ability to do so. So work directly with the person. Give people time and space, especially, again, if you're working with folks who maybe have intellectual or developmental disabilities, cognitive disabilities, traumatic brain injuries. One step at a time is really important. This is my struggle right here. I really struggle with breaking things down, using simple, plain language, and just going one step at a time. Plain language is up here as well, no slang. Again, this is one of my areas of growth opportunity. But I really try and encourage those of you who are in government to take a look at the website plainlanguage.org, no, .gov, plainlanguage.gov. They have a lot of resources, training, and materials that you can use to simplify your documents and your writing. Using calm body language is really critical as well, especially in those heated types of situations. But even, Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I know that you've worked extensively with communities that, you know, that I'm talking about here.
Body language is huge. And you know, if we look at it from a couple different perspectives, so if you're talking to somebody who you know, has an intellectual or a developmental disability, and your body language is very jumpity and very anxious, and maybe you are getting kind of too much in their face or trying too much to look them in the eye, they may get uncomfortable. They may want to walk away from that situation. And so you really need to pay attention to how, you know, they're reacting in the conversation that you're having. And you may ask, well, how do you know that, Sarah? You can't see. You can feel it. You can feel whether, you know, somebody is wanting to, you know, directly engage face to face with you, or if they're feeling like they need to maybe look at the ground. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that if somebody's looking down at the ground that they're ignoring you. I have a tendency as a person who is blind to sometimes look down or look up. It just depends on the acoustics in the room. Again, does not mean that I am ignoring you. It just means that I need to adjust the direction because I am getting older and my hearing isn't as good as it used to be. Misconception right there. Not all blind people can hear better than everybody else. Also, you know, when you are talking to somebody, you know, who uses a wheelchair, don't glower over them, right? It's nice if you can, you know, get down to their level and have a conversation with them, sit in a chair across from them, and make that connection. And also realize that, you know, some people who are blind, they do rock, and they may tap their foot, you know, and do other things. It's kind of like a concentration thing. Again, don't assume that that is because someone isn't paying attention. It's a tick. It's a thing that we may do from time to time, and it's absolutely okay.
I didn't realize that. Thank you, Sarah. See, I'm always learning. You got to be a lifelong learner here. A couple of the other simple steps for interaction, age appropriate. You know, I had a situation where I was working with Resources for Independence, and we were doing a train the trainer, teaching a group of adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities how to teach their peers to create a go kit for emergencies. And I was struggling. I was really having a hard time in doing this train the trainer with them. And I had someone from the center pull me aside and say, Shannon, you're kind of talking to these adults like they're children. And that was a wake up call for me. And now it's like at the back of my head, anytime I'm working with someone, I think, am I being age appropriate? Yes, I am. Great, move forward. On the slide here, it also says touch only with consent. Things like guiding people who are blind or visually impaired or have vision loss, considering the wheelchair as an extension of a person. If you wouldn't naturally touch a person, don't touch their wheelchair, and seek resources to help you. there are gobs of resources out there. And my favorite one, of course, is the independent living centers, because they have interaction with so many different types of people with disabilities. They're learning and growing in their resources, as are we. But the last thing on this slide, it says, remember, people are unique, behaviors and needs vary. Sarah?
And if I may touch on the touching thing, I know, you know, a lot of times it's kind of a reaction. I don't quite understand it. But people, they like to pet me. I don't know why. They'll walk up and start petting my head. I don't know. Maybe I look pretty as a puppy. I don't know. But you don't want to pet people with disabilities. We're not pets. And don't ever, and I'm telling you, don't ever walk up to a person who is blind and grab their arm without saying, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm wondering if you would like some assistance. I can offer you my elbow. I'm going to be honest. I was standing outside waiting for the bus one day, and for the paratransit bus, guy walked up and grabbed me. He got an elbow in the face. You don't want to just touch people. And I'm fortunate and unfortunate enough that I go to Kaiser quite a bit. Like I said earlier, I have Crohn's disease. And so I have been able to work with a lot of the staff over there about the proper way to do sighted guide. And if that's something in the future you guys would like a presentation on, I'd be happy to help with that too. But yes, you never want to just touch someone, because you wouldn't want to be touched, right? Personal space is important.
And I think a lot of these missteps come out of our human nature of wanting to be helpful, just not knowing how to do it right.
True.
All right, let's go to the next slide. We'll give a pause for interpreters. All right, so there's a lot of different ways that we can accidentally be ableist and what we call microaggressions. Now, a microaggression is an indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against a member of a marginalized group. You know, I call it accidentally being a jerk. You know, this is, your intent is not bad, but the impact is. So some ways that we see everyday ableism and microaggressions that crop up in our community include things like choosing inaccessible venues or locations for our events. Just going, oh yeah, we always use that conference room, without thinking, wait a second, is there parking? Is there access to transportation? Are there restrooms we can use? Inaccessible meeting materials or documents. Sarah, what does that sound like?
Oh, okay. So if I go to a meeting and the only way that I'm able to access the agenda is by a piece of paper sitting on a desk, that is not equitable access. In addition, sending a scanned document is not equitable access. It's important, if you're having, you know, any type of written communication, that you put it out there in the universe, that you can offer it in an alternative format, and really working with a person to see what can work for them the best. And, you know, sometimes things are harder to achieve. You know, it's harder to do, you know, there's people used to ask a lot for audio CDs and things like that, but there's some workarounds. But you just really want to think in terms of, you know, making sure that people are able to access information in the same way, you know, being equitable in the sense of, I can look at the agenda at 2 a.m. just like my friend Shannon can.
Yeah, it's been really neat watching the state of California as a whole in response to recent rules related to digital accessibility. A colleague of mine just started working at the state library, and she was telling me how that she spent 2 whole days in training on how to make documents accessible. And she's like, I thought of you. I said, yeah, we've been trying to get that going for many years now, across all jurisdictions. So that's really important. Some of the other ways that we can, you know, see everyday ableism cropping up, maybe things like framing disability as an inspiration or tragic loss she suffered from, or, oh my goodness, isn't she inspirational? Let's give her an award because she exists. Sarah?
All right, I'm gonna tell you a really great story. So my best friend Shanir and I, we were training for an endurance adventure, and so we're at the gym and we're on treadmills right next to each other, and we had stopped for a break, and we're standing there, you know, and this guy walks up and he's like, "Oh my gosh, my girlfriend and I were watching you guys. You are such an inspiration to us." And, you know, my friend and I kind of like stopped and I said, "Why?" And he's like, "Because you're here at the gym and you're on the treadmill." And I turned to him and I said, "Well, then you're an inspiration too, because you're here at the gym using a treadmill." I'm not an inspiration. I love when people say I'm motivating, right? Motivating is a lot different. But when somebody is like, you know, "You inspire me because you wake up in the morning," that's a bit much, because I'm not an inspiration. I'm just a person living my life just like everybody else. And I buy Cheerios the same way everybody else does, online, because that's the way that people do things.
Yeah. Did you ever see that TED Talk? I think it's called "I Am Not Your Inspiration."
Oh, that's one of my videos. I all new staff, they watch that.
Yeah, I would recommend that to everyone. We don't have it here today for you. Some other ways that ableism crops up are with invasive questions or statements. Things like, "Oh, how disabled are you? How did you become disabled?" That might be a private story. It might be a painful story. Or, you know, this one I like to riff on a little bit. "I don't even think of you as disabled. I don't see disability." But, you know, the challenge with that is, you know, it's coming from a good place. Like, you know, I see you as fully capable, you know, trying to use that capacities lens. But you have to take into account the disability. You have to take into account the whole person and all that they bring to bear as a person with a disability. So yeah, it's good to not think of someone as disabled, but know that that might be part of who they are. Sarah?
Oh yeah, I was sitting in a meeting, a very packed meeting, when a gentleman who used to be an executive director of a organization here said, "Oh, it's so nice to see you here, Sarah. Everybody, did you know Sarah is a professional blind person?" And I thought, oh, as opposed to I just play one on TV. It's just some of the things that maybe he was saying, "Oh, it's so nice to see you in this setting, you know, alongside me," or whatever it may be. But you really sometimes you got to think about how you're going to say something before it pops out of your mouth. It's not always easy, because believe me, I say some things and I go, "Oh, oops, I put my foot in my mouth." But so many times I get told, "Well, you don't act like a blind person, but you're looking at me." Well, because you're talking and I can hear which direction you're coming from. Again, it's all about that assume, don't assume.
Right, absolutely. And again, this all comes from, it's not from a place of malice. These are just things that we are used to doing in a certain way, and we don't realize the impact, intent and impact. The last here, you know, there are some common phrases out there that just get stuck in my craw. See, that's me using my euphemisms. Phrases like, "Oh, that's so retarded. That's so lame. I'm super OCD." Or "the blind leading the blind. They were deaf to my stories," right? These are kinds of things that we need to think about the language that we're using and our choices. Even though we are not coming from a place of malice, it can have a big impact. Sarah, did you want to say anything about the terms?
No, they really can be hurtful without, you know, anyone meaning to be hurtful. You know, I'm definitely somebody who grew up in the 90s. You know, the R word was something we just kind of said. And, you know, and so it was really not meant to, you know, be targeting anybody. But, you know, when you grow up and you learn and you get to be part of communities and you hear the things that can be really hurtful, you know, it really does put an impact. And, you know, and we mentioned earlier that video about "I'm not your inspiration." There's so many other videos out there on YouTube made by disability advocates talking about how they identify. And I do encourage you to take a minute and watch them, because they're just so amazing.
All right, we're going to go to the next slide. And actually, we have a 5-minute video. It goes real fast. I think it's 4.5 minutes. But I love this video. It's something I use with my staff training for all my new employees, because it feels very human. So Priscilla, will you get that going for us?
morning, Bob.
Morning there, big man. Morning, Alice!
There's no need to be awkward. Poor Bob. Like so many of us, he just doesn't know how to interact with people with disabilities.
It's pretty easy, really. People with disabilities are people first.
We need the same things that every person needs, like respect.
Good morning, everyone.
Attention! Okay. Maybe we need to be more specific.
The easiest way to show respect is to focus on the person, not the disability. It's okay. You'll get the hang of it.
One easy way to focus on the person is to watch the person signing and not their interpreter.
Or their companion.
It's really cool that you'd like to help, but do us both a favor and please ask me first. What you think might be helping? I got you. Wait, ah! Oh no, might actually not. If you'd like to offer me help, let me hold on to your elbow. Don't take mine.
Hey, would you like to take my arm?
Sure.
Assistive devices help us to live our lives. They're really important and really personal.
Grabbing them only makes it weird for everyone.
What? Please only touch our devices and service animals if we've given you permission. And don't take it personally if I ask you not to. Remember that my service animal helps me all the time. Neither of us would like it if we were separated.
Remember, we make our own decisions. We sign documents, vote, volunteer, work, and pay taxes.
We get married.
So don't address me just because I have a great smile.
Just because I'm blind. May I help you? Does not mean I'm deaf.
Just because I'm deaf doesn't mean I'm blind.
And just because I use a wheelchair doesn't mean that I can't sweep you off your feet.
So take a deep breath, relax. We don't bite.
Unless we're really hungry.
Hello there, ladies. How are you?
Hello. And if you're not sure what to do, just ask.
Hi, would you still like to see a menu?
No thanks, but can you please read it to me?
Sure, definitely.
Just treat us the way you would want to be treated, and we'll all be okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Alice.
Morning.
Awkward no more. Nice job, Bob. Go forth and be human.
There's no need to be awkward.
I swear that's my theme song. Oh, poor Bob, right? He is trying to be a good dude and he just missed the mark every single time. That's how it can be when we're interacting with someone who's different from ourselves. We're gonna make mistakes. Next slide. So what do we do? How do we recover when we're Bob, when we make mistakes? My model is own it, apologize, make it right and move on. Own it, apologize, make it right and move on. Oh, yep, I did say that. I'm sorry. How do we talk about your disability? You don't have to explain to that person that, you know, Uncle Bill has this disability. He always went by this. You thought it was okay. That person doesn't need to hear it. They've heard it many times before, and it's not going to help the situation. Sarah's got a different model. Sarah, what's your model?
All right, mine comes from my high school drama teacher. He said, if you F up, fess up, and fix it up. And the youth just love when I give that description to them. But, you know, it's very true, and it's very easy to remember the 3 Fs. And it's true, you know, if you mess up, you know, just say, hey, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You know, I just did this, or, you know, I had a friend who used to drive my daughter to school so that I didn't have to try to figure out paratransit and everything. And she was retired. And all the time she would do this, like, look at that guy, look at that guy. And then she'd go, oh, wait, I'm so sorry, sir, you can't see him. Let me tell you. And, you know, and that's all it took, you know, because she would go, wait a minute, oops, sorry, you know, I forgot, you can't see. Let me talk about what's going on. And it was always like some really dumb driver out there, you know, getting in the way, or, you know, getting in front of everybody, or dropping off their kid in the middle of the street, which I don't understand. So yeah, F up, fess up, fix it up. It works every time. You know, it's good, you know, practice to have in all of your life.
Right. And we have to remember that if we're interacting with someone and we make a mistake, they may have a big reaction. And reactions and responses may vary. You may get a no reaction whatsoever, or someone who's like, yeah, it's all good, just use this next time. But you may get someone with a really big reaction. It's been many. Oh, go ahead, Sarah, go.
I was going to say, just remember that people with disabilities, that there's grouchy people with disabilities, just like there's grouchy people without disabilities. Disability does not discriminate against grouchiness.
I like that. Well, and you think about it, every time that you experience that, it builds and builds and builds. So that person's not reacting to that one time you said something that seemed like no big deal. They're reacting to the 500 times that they've heard it. It eats at a person.
It does. And you also, you know, without knowing kind of where they're at in their own life experience, different reactions can happen. I can tell you that when, you know, I first lost my sight, I was a little over a year into it. I went to a party with my husband for the opening of a body shop, and I was so excited. You know, my daughter had just been born, and I was going to go out and, you know, have a good time. We walk in, there's a really drunk lady yelling, look, he brought a blind date. And I'm like, did she really just say that? And then she says it again, look, he brought a blind date. At that time, I burst into tears. It was so hurtful. I was so upset. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'll tell you now, because I am where I am, I would laugh and say, he sure did. And I'd wave my cane, and then she'd kind of probably feel like, oh, but you know, you don't ever know, you know, where somebody's at in that life experience, you know, whether they're in a spot where they can feel okay with something, or if they're in a spot where things are a little bit touchy.
Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. It's quite a story. All right, next slide. Well, what can we do? We make mistakes. We're trying to do better. That's what we do in this life. We try to do better in everything that we do. The biggest thing is to make room at the table. Make sure that if we're talking about disability access, there's a person with a disability, if not multiple folks with disabilities, around that table. Representation matters. And so I could know everything I know about the ADA law, but I may not have that direct experience, which is why when Phil reached out and said, hey, can you present on this? I said, no, but yes, but not on my own, because I need to pull in somebody with a lived experience. We need to invite new voices to contribute, people we haven't heard from before, different perspectives, people who maybe have intersecting identities as well. Acknowledge disability without judgment, avoid assumptions. Sarah, do you want to talk about those two items?
Yes, you know, and I can't say it enough, you know, really just avoiding assumptions is really the number one rule. And just as you would with anybody else, don't decide what is good for somebody, you know, or whether or not you're going to walk over and pet them on the head. Just, you know, make sure that you're taking that time to get to know somebody, have a conversation, and then you can see how you can support them. If they need support, they may not.
And when you know that one person's perspective, you know that one person's perspective, right? And that's one of the values of working with the Independent Living Center, is because of their wealth of experience with different folks. At least what I found in my own jurisdiction is having that seat at the table from RACV. They say, well, you know, I have clients that have these needs, and clients that have these other needs, and clients that have these other needs. The people that we work with have a variety of needs. How are we going to meet them all? And we start to troubleshoot and we start to solve problems together. It is important to avoid those assumptions. If you know one person, you know one person. Follow the person's lead. So when you're having a direct interaction with somebody, they know best their disability. You're there to help if they need it. And lastly, disability is just one aspect of a person's identity. As much as Sarah loves talking about disability, she has a lot of other interests as well, right?
Just a couple of things. Just a couple of things. And it's true. It's just part of me. My daughter likes to say I've done a good job of making it work. And just to share one more piece of me is I haven't always been blind. This year will mark my 20th anniversary on November 3rd. I lost my sight when another driver ran a red light. And, so that just shows we're all millimeters and milliseconds away from, anything that can, change our lives forever.
And, keeping in mind that folks like Sarah, she's an advocate. Her job is to talk about this and know that when you're interacting with people directly, right? That most people, their job is not to talk and educate about disability and to create systems change. They're just living their life. And they may be tired of talking about their disability in that moment. We don't know. So know that there's other aspects that we can lean into. Sarah, any other tips here on this slide before we start wrapping up?
The one thing I do want to also add in is, we talked about bringing folks to the table with disabilities. There's a quote that I really love by Shirley Chisholm that says, if there's not a table at the seat, or not a seat at the table for me, I'll pull up a folding chair. And, and that's what I encourage all of my friends out there to do. And I encourage you all too, as well, as to find a folding chair and invite people with disabilities to sit at that table with you.
I know that it has made my personal and professional life richer, having that broadened perspective. So I hope the same for each and every one of you. Let's go to the next slide. We're going to bring it full circle again. And this is the same slide as before. It's about people. At the heart of what we do, we can talk about compliance, we can talk about lawsuits, we can talk about regulations, but it's about people who are part of our community, who have so much to contribute, who have a variety of capabilities that we could be tapping into, and that just want to live their lives, right? And pictured in the bottom left corner, you can see Sarah on the screen here, along with some of our other local advocates on the bottom left corner, and they're looking at one of our accessible trash cans that we implemented a couple of years back. Sarah, do you want to add anything about people?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we want to remember that, we're all people, we're all part of the human race, and we all have to coincide together. And if we take the time to communicate, and I mean old-fashioned communication, I mean having conversations, those uncommon conversations, maybe it's, while you're sitting in a restaurant waiting to be seated, or it's on a bus, or maybe you made a wrong phone call, calling the wrong number. I've had some really interesting conversations with people that way. Just really, talk to people and learn about them, and you'll be surprised how much insight that'll give you.
On the next slide, we have some resources just in general. And we can go to the very last slide as well, which has our contact information. Both Sarah and I love to talk about this, and we welcome any questions as well. A big thank you to the California Commission on Disability Access, not only for inviting us here to speak, but for your years of partnership. You've been a valuable resource to me professionally, and just a great, it's been fantastic interacting with you over the years. So Sarah, do you have any final words before we turn it back over?
I just want to say thank you so very much, and feel free to ask anything.
This is Commissioner Wheelie. I would like to say thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Shannon, for your time, for your passion evident today, for your presentation. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Olhessen. I also reiterate my appreciation for coming, but I also have a comment or question if you'd like to answer to it. Given the recent disability pride, basically reframing the topic of disability, to make it more global and bring it to the forefront. Do you see, I mean, the ADA passed over 30 years ago, and we still have made marginal differences, as you mentioned earlier. But do you think this will take a new dimension in regards to reframing disability, to disability pride, especially among our youths with disability?
I most definitely hope so. That's something that, I talk about frequently in my work and in my personal life to, everyone around me, and especially our youth, and really, giving them the motivation and the empowerment to realize that anything is possible if they want it bad enough, right? And that's the same thing that we would tell any young person. And so just really, stepping away from that model of, you have a disability, you're going to sit at home and eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and collect your Social Security check. That's not acceptable anymore, because we're people with disabilities. We, live and work among everybody, people without disabilities, and we really need to be treated with dignity and with respect, and to teach our youth that to expect that and to ask for that, I think is going to make a huge difference. And in regard to, looking at the ADA and how it's, just kind of chipping away, I really hope that because we're having more of these uncomfortable conversations, that may open up the door to adding in some additions to the ADA, especially around web accessibility and things of that nature. I think that we can just really hope and all work on that together.
This is Shannon. If I may add one little thing, is that the ADA, the civil rights law, that's the bare minimum. We can do better.
Exactly. And I guess we have a long way to go in regards to attitudinal barrier removal. But I think most importantly in the education process is that part of the limitation that sometimes is imposed on a person with disability is based on family and culture. And I think that's another depth of disability awareness that probably needs to be looked at as we're doing further training. Because, for example, in the Japanese community, the word disability doesn't exist.
Really?
So, right. Because I do these trainings too. And I've done it to the military. And when I was finishing my doctorate, it's funny because I said, one of my colleagues was in the Army, a sergeant in the Army. And I said, what am I going to tell all these generals and colonels? How can I address the disability issue, especially with military soldiers becoming disabled after duty and wanting to return to work? And so he said, bring up the issue that the military is in a disability business. Our whole goal is to disable our enemy. And I thought, oh, that's a good opening. When I did the training to the Department of Defense, I did use that. And I also used how a person who may have lost a leg or lost an arm in active duty may want to come back and continue service. How would that be addressed given an accommodation and so forth? So I guess what I'm saying is that there's different perspectives in looking at attitudinal barrier removal. And I know we have a long ways to go because, as you said, an individual is like an onion, we're layered. And our disability is sometimes just the surface, and many hidden disabilities that people do not see. And especially now, I know from working in education, a lot of our youth have multiple disabilities, and some of them are hidden and some of them are visible. And being able to address their needs and how they fit in to their peers is really important too. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Are there other questions from members of the commission for the speakers?
This is Hector Ramirez and the Zoom. Can I address?
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, I want to apologize. This is Hector Ramirez. I didn't do a visual description when I started, so I really want to apologize. So I am, my visual description, I am wearing a red guayabera. I am 47 years old, native Mexican looking. I have long hair pulled in a ponytail. And then my Zoom background is the Disability Pride flag, the new one, because we've actually adapted it and made it accessible for folks. So it's a light colored flag with strident colors that go across from one top corner to the bottom corner. And so it represents the intersectionality of the disability community. And originally the flag was bright colors, but it was adapted to make sure that it was accessible for folks that experience migraines. And the colors were like in a zigzag pattern, and it was adapted to just a strident line to accommodate for those individuals that have seizure disorders that look at the flag sometimes to prevent it. So I apologize. I always do it at the beginning and I didn't do it. And this morning, actually, Vice President Kamala Harris did it for the first time, model it at the federal level when she met with disability rights advocates. So because some of us were joining by Zoom and other folks were in person, and because some of us really don't see what is there, she gave a visual description to the world while she did this. And so I really wanted to thank you for that. I absolutely love the presentation that was just done. I always tell some of our business partners that when they're getting consultants, if they're getting cultural competency or disability consultants, and they're getting somebody that is showing DEI, they're not getting their money's worth. They're actually getting shortchanged and not getting the appropriate training. The new standard training, both at the federal level and it's coming down to California, it's IDEA. It's like a great idea. It's the acronym for IDEA. It's inclusion, diversity, equity, and then accessibility at the end. Because it shouldn't be kind of like a little letter. It shouldn't be an assumption. It needs to be really given its own place. So whenever any business partners is doing this training, look for IDEA, not IDE. DEI, because you're going to get in shortchanged. So I really appreciate this work. I love the video that you showed. It's one of my agency's earliest work that we did. And it was actually done several years ago. And since then, we don't really share it anymore because even our disability community that has progressed, now that they look at it, they go, oh, they almost get cringe when they look at it, like, oh my gosh, that is now a little bit offensive. And so, I put a link in the chat for the new agency that really has more up-to-date information on workplace etiquette and employment, which was the purpose of this video, because this video really didn't address other things like non-apparent disabilities in the workplace, which is the predominant disability in the workplace. And oftentimes, attitudinal barriers are the significant factor impeding people from working, but also accessing services. It can be very traumatizing or even insulting sometimes to go into environments where, because of our non-apparent disabilities, not our invisible disabilities, but non-apparent disabilities, oftentimes don't get the accommodations that we need, or sometimes people misinterpret some of our other disabilities because they're not aware of what it is. And I think that's one of the new kind of things that I was really glad and very, very, very happy to see that is being discussed within the presentation. And I like your kind of like ouchie, sorry kind of thing, because it's something that I did. I did it, or I just did it. But I think sometimes with the language that we use, we realize that how we speak really has a significant impact on how other people do. And the statistic of the 1 in 5 people with disability, that is pre-COVID. That is pre-COVID.
Right.
One of the things that we do know is that since COVID, the prevalence of disabilities is estimated right now to be 1 in 3, if not 1 in 2. Because of the significant impact that COVID has on most of us. We have new disabilities. We have people that people that don't even realize that they're not living with disabilities, or even what that means. And so I think this is why this new pride movement that we have with the disability community is just so important, because helping people realize that anybody at any time can develop a disability at many times throughout their lives is a reality. And I think COVID has really made that aware for us. I don't know a single person right now who hasn't experienced some type of mental health disability or mental health condition because of COVID, either because they're directly being impacted or just seeing it. So I think the conversation of disability is getting a lot more opportunities at every single type of level, and it gives us an opportunity to really go with that momentum. The conversations around disability and the Americans with Civil, the ADA, which is so old and really is the floor. It's just the floor. Don't leave us on the floor. We need to go higher. And I think that's part of the work that we're all doing. So I really want to thank you for that as well. And kudos. Look forward to working with you. I wasn't aware of your work, so I'm really excited to follow up later on with you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramirez. Thank you.
If I may, oh, go ahead.
Oh, my apologies, Shannon. I was just going to mention to Commissioner Wheelie that also Commissioner Dillard had his hand raised, and he also would like to speak.
Great. Go ahead.
Thank you. I had raised it, but I put it back down. But I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. I thought it was fantastic. I went through the material prior to your presentation, and I must say, after you presented it, it was extremely much better. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Dillard. Yeah, Sarah and I like to present, not just read slides.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I wanted to touch on a couple of those things that Commissioner Ramirez talked about. You know, with long COVID, Sarah and I had an extensive talk about, you know, what is this going to mean for our community and for how we operate, either from, you know, the government accommodation side of things or modification side of things versus the community services and the availability there, and educating people that don't realize that they have protections under these laws, under these civil rights laws. You know, I'm glad you brought up invisible disabilities as well, because we didn't touch on that extensively here. And that's something that is often overlooked, invisible disabilities, including mental health disabilities. Something that, you know, Sarah and I have talked extensively about is like migraine disorders. You know, I'm one that I moved into a new workspace, and all of a sudden I realized that the halogen lights were triggering my migraines by noon every single day. And so having to have a real hard talk about, okay, what are we going to do about the lighting situation? I know that we've reduced the lightings, but what can we do? And how can we get some natural light in there? And being myself, feeling that nervousness about asking for an accommodation. And I'm in this world. I know how to do those sorts of things. And just imagining what that is like for other folks who either don't know that they can ask or don't know what to ask. And that's, again, where our independent living centers come in. Sarah?
And I was just going to thank everybody for their comments, but also Commissioner Ramirez, I would love to connect with you. So please reach out. And I want to say you look great today.
Thank you. I'm going to draw this agenda item to a close. I'm very grateful for the time that we've spent here today together. We will move to agenda item 13, future agenda items, discussion from the full commission. Is there anything that the commissioners would like to see included in an upcoming agenda for an upcoming hearing?
Commissioner
briefly, this is Commissioner Paravani. I'd like us to look at the ability and authority we have to do fundraising and determine whether it's feasible for us to engage in that, whether that's done at the executive committee level or at the full commission. I don't care, but I would like us to follow up with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Paravani. Are there other suggestions?
I'd like to talk about post-COVID and actually looking at emergency preparedness in regards to access across the board.
Thank you, Commissioner Al Hassan. Any others?
This is Hector, Commissioner Ramirez. Sorry. I definitely like the COVID. We're still in COVID, and so for me, I definitely want to look at the issue of workplace accommodations or accessibility for businesses to be able to function during this emergency period.
Thank you.
Chair Commissioner Wheelie, I do not see any other commissioners with their hands raised or any indication in the chat that the commissioners have a commentary regarding this agenda item.
Thank you. Then on the basis of that, I will call agenda item 13 closed. And at agenda item 14, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Holloway has moved.
Commissioner Wesson, second.
Commissioner Jackson has offered a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Anybody wish to abstain on this vote? I would say the motion carried, and thank you all very much.
Thank you.